Chapter 399. As he thought of the world's will's determination to destroy the little blue lamp, Qinyu's heart tightened. Although he didn't have any evidence, he felt as if he had come into contact with some horrifying secret. And this secret wasn't something he had the qualifications to touch with his current cultivation. Qinyu took a deep breath and suppressed these thoughts. He couldn't help but reveal a look of hesitation. Could the little blue lamp really be some sinful object? No, it could accelerate the growth of spiritual plants and enhance the quality of pills without the least bit of evil aura. His thoughts were all jumbled up. After a moment, Qinyu calmed down and a firm look appeared in his eyes. The reason he was able to reach where he was today was largely due to the little blue lamp. It could be called the cornerstone upon which Qinyu could establish himself in the world. Even if the little blue lamp was truly a sinful object, they had already fused together and could not be separated. Naturally, they would be reduced to evil together. Since this was the case, there was no point in hesitating. He only needed to abide by his heart and continue walking down this road. In the distance, in the endless nothingness, in the space connected to the sealed dimension ring, the little blue lamp that had turned into a great sun seemed to sense Qinyu's thoughts and emitted a loud hum. Invisibly, the connection between them became even closer. Qinyu could feel the sense of intimacy from the little blue lamp. His lips curved up in a smile. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have doubted you. If you are evil, then let us dye the fires of evil in the entire world." He turned his hand and an icebox appeared in his palm. This was the rest loam he obtained from the Nine-Realm Holy Land's secret treasure pagoda. "Little blue lamp, is this rest loam useful to you?" Just as Qinyu's voice fell, a great sun phantom appeared in front of him. However, this great sun phantom was wrapped in a layer of dark nothingness, isolating its aura and making it impossible for the outside world to sense it. The icebox shattered into powder and the rest loam appeared in the outside world. The great sun phantom fluctuated and Qinyu could feel the little blue lamp's joy. A deep blue light gushed out, covering the rest loam. It trembled for a moment before vanishing from sight. Shwa, the great sun phantom vanished. Qinyu's thoughts stirred. He quickly closed his eyes and his consciousness entered the sealed dimension ring. After a dazed and numb feeling, he arrived in the space it was connected to. His consciousness fused into his blood, turning into a divine sense body. When Qinyu opened his eyes, he discovered that the great sun above his head had become extremely dim, as if all of its strength had been gathered together. He could clearly see that within this dim shadow of the sun, the 2 feet of deep blue was transparent and pure. The breath earth was bathed within, and it was actually like a heart, fiercely beating. Just at this moment, all of the blue disappeared, turning into a ray of light that entered the growing soil. The breath loam suddenly froze, and then in the next moment, it exploded into powder with a bang and transformed into countless fine powder that scattered down like boundless snowflakes. When these snowflakes fell onto the ground, they directly merged into it. Then, loud rumbling sounds came from the depths of this broken land that had experienced such a catastrophe. Qinyu revealed a shocked expression. He could see that on the boundless earth, great waves were set off. Everything that was broken on the ground was instantly erased beneath these waves. With the sound of breaking air, a blade of grass ran over in a panic. It wrapped around Qinyu's body and shivered, as if it were remembering something extremely terrifying. "Don't worry. Today isn't the day of destruction. This is the day that this space will be reborn." Qinyu gently stroked the grass and smiled. The grass gradually calmed down, but it still wrapped around Qinyu. One man, one grass, they watched this scene that could be called a miracle. When all traces of the earth were erased, it was as flat as a sheet of white paper. Then, on this sheet of white paper, some parts became hills and some parts became plains. Between the plains and hills, there were some places that protruded into mountains and some areas that caved in into rivers. Water vapor rose up from the ground, condensing into clouds in the skies. Then, with a loud rumble of thunder, a torrential downpour of rain followed. After the rain fell on the earth, it began to emit something called vitality. Just looking at it made one feel happy. The grass wrapped around Chinyu's body cried out in excitement. It flew out and landed on a hill. Its roots rapidly wriggled and drilled into the earth. Then, its body began to wildly grow. In several breaths of time, it grew to thousands of feet, a grass that was thousands of feet tall. Within its leaves, the silver veins were deep to the extreme. Then, a touch of gold appeared and spread to every corner at an astonishing speed. A brilliant golden light emitted from the entire grass. A vast and boundless aura caused one's heart to tremble. In this shattered space, it had bitterly endured for endless years without truly dying. This grass was naturally not ordinary. A long, long time ago, it had an extremely domineering name, the star-cutting grass. In the rumors, when this grass grew to its peak, a single blade could tear through the heavens, pierce through the boundless nothingness, and even cut apart a star. The heavy rain continued to pour down. By now, it had already been over a month. Chinyu stood here, watching as the rain gathered into streams, the streams melted into small rivers, and the small rivers poured into great rivers. Several great rivers roared as they flowed towards the lowest point of the earth, forming a massive lake. Or, it could be called a sea. Chinyu quietly watched all of this, his mind immersed in it. It was like he was participating in the rebirth of the entire world. There was a mystical feeling that made it so that he couldn't feel the flow of time in the outside world. Even though his divine sense had left his body for such a long time, he didn't feel tired at all. Rather, his divine sense began to grow stronger at an astonishing speed, becoming purer and more transparent. Chinyu didn't realize that in his soul space, a purple moon was emitting a light that was constantly fusing into his soul. Compared to when it first condensed, the purple moon was clearly larger. From a crescent moon, it had become a narrow sickle. The purple light it sprinkled down was also much purer than before. The third month passed. Chinyu's body turned illusory as he awoke from his immersed state. His divine sense felt as if it had eaten a full meal, unable to continue growing stronger. Sensing his surroundings, he discovered that 3 months had passed. Chinyu was startled and his divine sense body loudly dissipated. Within the dwelling of the Titan tribe, a layer of dust had fallen onto Chinyu's body. His fingers moved and he opened his eyes. Bang! An invisible strength erupted, shaking away all the dust. 2 beams of divine light shot out from his eyes, emitting a horrifying momentum. Chinyu's expression didn't change at all, but his entire person exuded an inexplicable majesty. Every action and movement he made caused one's heart to tremble. This was the pressure that naturally appeared after his soul force increased. Chinyu could feel his increased soul force and a happy expression lit up his face. But soon, he jumped up and hurried outside. But before he could reach the door, the courtyard door exploded into pieces with a loud bang. The array formation flashed and was forcefully broken. Chinyu's complexion changed. He shouted out, "Who is it?" Dust flew into the air, revealing an embarrassed expression on Tuba's face. The great priest beside him widened his eyes, but they soon turned into pleasant surprise. "Your Highness Saint's son, you haven't sent any messages for 2 months. This old servant has called out to you several times but you haven't responded, thus, if I have disturbed you in any way, I ask that your Highness forgive me." Chinyu coughed. "I stumbled upon some gain so I went into seclusion for a period of time. I was unable to sense the outside world and I've caused the great priest to worry." The great priest's eyes fell on Chinyu and he revealed a shocked expression. Your Highness's cultivation speed is amazing. In a short 3 months, your soul force has nearly doubled in strength. I fear that you are now comparable to an ordinary Blue Sea Realm martial artist. As the Titan race's great priest, he naturally had a deep understanding of the cultivation boundaries of humans. He sighed inwardly. Qin Yu was truly worthy of being chosen as the saint son of a holy land. His talent had reached an unbelievable boundary. But the more it was like this, the greater the chances of the Titan race being rescued were. The great priest was shocked, but also pleasantly surprised. Qin Yu faintly smiled, not saying much about this matter. The great priest seems a bit worried. Is something the matter? The great priest hurriedly said, "It is indeed an urgent matter, otherwise I wouldn't have dared to break into your Highness's dwelling. This is because the infinite realm will close soon." He took out his status token. "I have already opened up a space a bit, enough for Tuba and Tutu to enter. I ask that your Highness Saint Sun bring them out of the infinite realm." Qin Yu was startled. "How long until it closes?" The great priest thought for a moment. "According to my experience, it shouldn't be longer than 10 days. Qin Yu's heart sank. In a short 10 days, he feared he wouldn't have a chance to find Ningling. Although reason told Qin Yu that enhancing his soul force was the wiser choice, he still blamed himself. He shouldn't have immersed himself in the reconstruction of the spatial fragment, delaying him for 3 months. Otherwise, he might have been able to see her again. Since things had come to this, blaming himself was useless. Qin Yu took a deep breath and composed himself. "Since there are still 10 days, I should prepare to leave." The great priest revealed a nervous expression. "Your Highness Saint Sun, every time the infinite realm opens or closes, the strength of the rules will be extremely active. Our Titan tribe needs to be completely sealed up in order to avoid being detected, so, cough cough, I ask for your Highness Saint Sun's forgiveness." Qin Yu was suddenly enlightened. He felt a bit awkward. So he had been in seclusion all this time, delaying the Titan tribe from opening the seal. He immediately said, "I didn't know about this. Since it's like this, I will leave today." The great priest quickly said, "It was my fault. I didn't inform your Highness of this matter ahead of time." He took out another inheritance stone. "Your Highness, this contains my Titan race's body transformation cultivation method. I have seen that your Highness has also practiced the path of body transformation, and this cultivation method might be useful for your Highness. Consider it a gift from my Titan race to your Highness. I only hope that your Highness can one day truly inherit the Holy Land and rescue my Titan race from this destroyed world." Qin Yu received the token and inheritance stone. He finally understood why the great priest was so respectful and awed towards him. The reason wasn't because of his status as the saint's son, but because he was the only person who could possibly save the Titan race. Only when he became the master of the Holy Land and pardoned the Titan race would they be able to leave the rapidly approaching destruction of the infinite realm. Thinking of this, Qin Yu relaxed. Towards Tuba and Tutu who followed him, he could completely trust them. This was because the two of them were absolutely loyal and devoted to him. They cared about his safety even more than he did himself. "Great priest, rest assured that I will work hard to cultivate so that I can bring the Titan race out of this world as soon as possible." The great priest deeply bowed. "I will have to trouble your Highness." He turned and shouted, "The two of you, remember, even if you die a horrible death, you must ensure His Highness's safety." Tuba and Tutu fell to their knees. "We vow to protect His Highness with our lives." Qin Yu's eyes flashed with satisfaction. These two Titans were extremely strong. If they followed by his side, it would indeed increase their safety. His thoughts stirred and he immediately discovered that the space opened up within the token was 1,000 feet wide. Moreover, there was a well-built courtyard within. As for further away, it was covered by a dark gray fog and was in a sealed state. Qin Yu instinctively knew how to control this space. With a thought, a suction force covered Tuba and Tudu. Without any resistance, they were sucked in. Qin Yu used his divine sense to investigate. He discovered that the two of them had already appeared in the courtyard within the token space. And, if he wanted to summon them out, he could do so with just a thought. In fact, Qin Yu even discovered that he himself could enter this space. With a thought, the world around him changed. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Tuba and Tudu, causing them to jump up in fright. They quickly fell to their knees and bowed. Chapter 400. Qin Yu didn't stay for long. He glanced around and then said to Tuba and Tudu, "The two of you cultivate here in peace. Once we leave the infinite realm, I will let you out." "Yes, Your Highness." Tuba and Tudu fell to their knees. Qin Yu's eyes flashed. He didn't stop them from bowing again. With a thought, he vanished from sight and appeared in front of the Great Priest in the next moment. "Great Priest, when I entered the token just now, did you discover where it was?" The Great Priest thought for a moment. "I could only feel that there was something unusual in the space in front of me, but I couldn't find Your Highness' token." Qin Yu thought to himself that this was indeed the case. The token could be received into his body. After Qin Yu entered, the token would lose its concealing barrier and fuse into the space. This point was extremely narrow. Even someone as powerful as the Great Priest could only faintly sense it at such a close distance. From this, it could be seen that the token's concealing abilities were extremely strong. Of course, the Great Priest was a powerhouse with a mortal body, but his soul cultivation was weak. This also had to be taken into consideration. Even so, when he faced dangers in the future, the token could still be considered a good way to avoid disaster. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. "Great Priest, if there is nothing else, then I will bid my farewells." The Great Priest bowed. "Farewell, Your Highness." Qin Yu stepped forwards. His body turned into a beam of light that flew out of the canyon, vanishing from sight. A Titan powerhouse walked over, a puzzled look on his face. "Great Priest, since His Highness is the key to saving our people, why not send stronger people to follow him to ensure that nothing goes wrong?" The Great Priest shook his head. "His Highness seems kind and friendly, but the truth is that he is extremely vigilant in his heart. If we send people that are too strong to follow him, I fear he will feel fear in his heart. That would be bad for us. Tuba and Tudu are both outstanding juniors of my race. Because the Infinite Realm's rules have erased them these past years, they have been suppressing their cultivations. Once they enter the land of divinity and demons, their strength will rapidly rise and they should be able to protect themselves." There were also some words that the Great Priest didn't say. The reason he sent Tuba and Tudu was because their strength wasn't too different from Qin Yu's. The three of them might experience some trials and tribulations, but only in adversity would one see true friends. As long as the three of them could be on good terms, the Titan race would have a future. "I hope that our race can smoothly last until that day." The Great Priest silently thought to himself. He turned and shouted, "Pass down orders. Seal off the canyon and shield the Infinite Realm's rules." After several breaths of time, a blood-red beam of light shot up into the sky, transforming into a layer of light that spread out and covered the entire Titan tribe. 100 miles away from the canyon, Qin Yu stopped. He turned to look at the blood-red pillar of light above the canyon. His eyes flashed and he continued forwards. The Infinite Realm would only close for another 10 days at most. The chances of finding Ningling were slim, but he still didn't want to give up. He took many turns but in the end he didn't find anything. Today, 8 days had passed. The Infinite Realm could close at any moment. Qin Yu sighed inwardly. He stopped atop a mountain peak. A strong gust of wind blew against his face, causing his black robe to flutter. His face was a little dim, but his eyes were still filled with determination. Even if he couldn't see Ning Ling this time, his current strength far surpassed what it was when he first entered the Infinite Realm. At worst, he could spend some time crossing the land of divinity and demons to reach the immortal sect. As long as one wanted to, one could always see it. Qin Yu took a step and leapt down. His figure rose and fell several times in the jungle before he soon vanished from sight. The 9th day. Qin Yu could also feel the strange fluctuations emitting from the Infinite Realm. It seemed that it would close soon. He took a deep breath and landed. He chose an ancient tree and sat down cross-legged. In the last bit of time he had left, Qin Yu planned to wait here for the Infinite Realm to close. But not long after Qin Yu sat down, 2 cultivators raced towards him from afar with panicked expressions. After reaching large success of the King's Step demon body, his hearing had become even more amazing. He could faintly hear bits and pieces of their conversation. Immortal sect, female cultivator, trapped, terrifying. As these words fell into his ears, Qin Yu's eyes shot open and he moved to block the 2. Who is it? The 2 cultivators were shocked. When they saw that it was only Qin Yu, they calmed down a little, but they were still on high alert. They hadn't discovered this cultivator ahead of time. If he were to sneak attack them, thinking of this, their expressions became even more dignified. Qin Yu cupped his hands together. Fellow Taoists, please don't misunderstand. I have no ill intentions. I just overheard you 2 say that there was a female immortal sect cultivator that fell into a trap. I wonder what she looks like and where she is right now. The 2 cultivators glanced at each other. One of them said, "We were just passing by from afar. We only saw a young and beautiful female immortal sect cultivator fall into a stone forest 100 miles away." Qin Yu nodded. Thank you. His figure flashed and he hurried away in the direction they had pointed out. Senior apprentice brother, that is a magic-devouring demon spider. That person's cultivation isn't weak, but if he rushes there will only be death for him. The other cultivator frowned. The person who spoke sneered. That person asked us for information, so we are just telling him the truth. Why do we need to care about him? And what senior apprentice brother says is also true. The 2 quickly left. Qin Yu deliberately sped up 100 miles and soon arrived. As he expected, what appeared in front of him was a vast and barren stone forest. These stones were haphazardly piled together, forming an array formation. Fog tumbled through the stone forest, making it impossible to see what was inside. At this time, one could faintly hear a great movement coming from deep within the stone forest. Qin Yu stepped into the stone forest without hesitation. The moment he entered the fog, his complexion changed. Because of this, the magic power circulating within his body became sluggish. But with a thought, the circulation of his magic power suddenly accelerated and he broke through this invisible sluggishness. Qin Yu didn't stop at all, he shot straight into the depths of the stone forest. The fog became increasingly thick. Luckily, Qin Yu's eyesight was amazing and he could faintly make out the approximate situation. As he passed several giant stones, his complexion changed and he came to a sudden stop. A large white net fell down from above his head. This net was slightly damp, as if it had just been woven. It emitted a faint fishy smell. Qin Yu punched out his fist and the falling net trembled as it was torn apart. But as it broke apart, a great amount of liquid fell down, filling his nose and mouth with a thick fishy smell. The magic power circulating within his body came to a sudden stop, as if it had fallen into a swamp. It became incomparably difficult and slow to circulate. Poison. Looking at the shattered net, Chinyu instantly thought back to the information he had read about the infinite realm. There was a terrifying monster beast that he had seen before. A magic-devouring demon spider. This was a special monster beast of the infinite realm. From the day it was born, it would constantly weave large webs, covering its territory layer by layer. Moreover, throughout its long life, it would constantly reinforce the webs. The reason it did this was because its main body was weak. Without the protection of the webs, it would be easily killed. But at the same time, the magic-devouring demon spider that was trapped in the webs could be called a nightmarish existence. This was because the webs that the magic-devouring demon spider weaved contained a strange poison that could restrain the magic power within a living being. Moreover, this poison didn't corrode the mortal body. Once a living being was exhausted and lost the ability to resist, they would become its food. Chinyu revealed a look of hesitation. Then, he took a step forwards and continued to rush deeper into the stone forest. He wasn't sure whether or not it was Ningling inside. But even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, Chinyu couldn't take this risk. As far as he could see, layers upon layers of spider webs filled his field of vision, blocking off all paths forward. If he wanted to enter the depths of the stone forest, he could only forcefully break through. But if he did this, he would have to tear apart a massive amount of spider webs. And after the spider webs broke apart, even more poison would be released. This was an unsolvable proposition. Chinyu lifted a hand and punched out. The spider webs in front of him trembled and disintegrated. The magic power within his body flowed even slower, but he didn't stop at all. Bang, bang, with loud explosions, he rapidly advanced like a hot knife through butter. His skin had turned a pale gray color. This was a sign that the spider's poison had seriously invaded his body. If it were any other divine soul cultivator, their magic power would have already condensed and they wouldn't have been able to move it in the slightest. But Chinyu had 5 nascent souls in his Dantian Sea, so he could just barely support himself. However, the closer he went to the depths of the stone forest, the harder the spider webs became. Originally, he could have casually shattered them with a single punch, but now he needed several punches to break through. Like this, the consumption of magic power became increasingly severe. Chinyu's 5-element nascent souls also began to rapidly dim. Bang! The thick spider webs in front of him withstood 7 punches before a crack was torn open. Chinyu flew in and finally saw a terrifying spider that was dozens of feet long. It nimbly crawled along the spider webs, its speed as fast as lightning. Its tail spat out spider silk that constantly reinforced the cage. Within this spider silk cage was a female immortal sect cultivator. Her face was pale and she was panting for breath. If it weren't for a powerful treasure above her head, she would have already become the flesh and blood of the magic-devouring demon spider. Seeing Chinyu arrive, the female immortal sect cultivator was overjoyed. She hurriedly said, "Fellow Daoist, I am the immortal sect disciple Shui Yuanling. I ask fellow Daoist to save me." It wasn't Ningling. Chinyu's eyes revealed a bit of disappointment, but it soon disappeared. He hesitated for a moment and then stepped forwards, hurtling towards the spider silk cage. The magic-devouring demon spider had also discovered the uninvited guest that was Chinyu. It emitted an angry roar and spat out a massive mass of poison. "Fellow Daoist, be careful," Shui Yuanling hurriedly warned. She had been careless and had been swept up by this poison, causing her to lose her ability to resist and allow the magic-devouring demon spider to slowly drag her deeper into the stone forest. But Chinyu didn't seem to hear her. He didn't dodge at all, instead smashing apart the poison with a single punch. Shui Yuanling's eyes widened in shock. Was this person an idiot? She had already warned him and yet he still forcefully collided with the poison. It was over, it was over. She originally thought that with a helper here, there might be a slight chance of survival. But now it seemed that this was nothing more than food for the magic-devouring demon spider. The magic-devouring demon spider was stunned for a moment. Then, a mocking look appeared in its eyes. As expected, the intruder human stiffened and fell to the spider web. It hesitated for a moment and then its legs began to move. Its body was like a gust of wind as it hurtled towards Chinyu. The magic-devouring demon spider could feel the rich blood energy within this human outsider's body. After eating him, it might be able to help it complete its transformation once more. Chapter 401. According to the Jade Slip, the magic-devouring demon spider's body was incomparably hard and its only weakness was the space between its compound eyes. This monster beast had always been careful in defending itself and would only expose itself when it was eating. Chinyu pretended to be poisoned in order to draw the magic-devouring demon spider over. As expected, beneath his fist, the magic-devouring demon spider cried out in pain. It spat out green blood and its body swayed as it tried to escape. Chinyu naturally wouldn't give it a chance to escape. With a loud shout, his feet fell and he instantly approached it. He lifted a hand and punched the magic-devouring demon spider's compound eyes. With a loud cracking sound, the magic-devouring demon spider's skull shattered. Its compound eyes were shattered and green blood flowed out. With a shrill scream, the magic-devouring demon spider went completely crazy. Perhaps because it knew that it couldn't escape today, it chose to desperately take revenge. Its fat tail suddenly exploded and endless white mucus gushed out. As this mucus touched the air, it rapidly condensed and wrapped around Chinyu. At the same time, several of the magic-devouring demon spider's legs wildly chopped down. Chinyu's pupils shrank. Instead of retreating, he moved forwards. The magic-devouring demon spider could feel him approaching and it opened its jaws to bite down. Chinyu dodged to the side. He lifted a hand and grasped at its throat. Gotcha! The magic-devouring demon spider's body stiffened. The crazily chopping legs weakly fell to the ground. Demon body combat skill, choking finger. 30% of defense was ignored and the absolute defense-breaking attribute erupted, instantly killing it. Chinyu's eyes flashed and he punched out twice, smashing apart the magic-devouring demon spider's head. Then, he drilled his hand into the sticky mass and took out an irregular stone the size of a palm. With a thought, water appeared out of thin air, cleansing his palm and the stone. He looked at the purple spots on the surface of the stone and revealed a satisfied expression. Because the magic-devouring demon spider's strength was limited, it was impossible for it to completely absorb the strength of powerful life forms it swallowed. The remaining portion would condense into a spirit stone in its brain. This spirit stone contained a massive amount of chaotic and wild strength. It was impossible for cultivators to use it, but it was an excellent treasure for raising spirit beasts. In the rumors, it even had the miraculous effect of pushing spirit beasts to the next level. The purple spots that appeared on the surface of the spirit stone were a sign that it contained an extremely potent strength. When Chinyu obtained the purple-back blue-wing ants in the land of exiles, after they evolved into yin-yang twin ants, they hadn't received any further training. Now, they were still growing and multiplying in the Imperial Spirit Bag. After entering the land of divinity and demons, there would be countless geniuses and powerhouses. There would be countless lucky chances, but at the same time, there would be countless dangers. If he could raise the yin-yang twin ants, then he would have another method to deal with his enemies. He flipped his hand and put away the spirit stone. Then, he punched several times to break apart the spiderweb. As he felt the sourness in his body, he frowned. The magic-devouring demon spider's poison was truly fierce. Even his large success king-step demon body had begun to be corroded. If he hadn't used a trick to kill this magic-devouring demon spider, today's outcome would have been unknown. Bang! A radiant divine light erupted. Without the reinforcement of the magic-devouring demon spider, the spider web cage was torn apart with difficulty. Shui Yuanling's complexion was deathly pale. She staggered out, her eyes filled with fear and joy. She gratefully bowed towards Qin Yu. "Thank you, fellow Daoist, for helping me, otherwise I would have died today." Qin Yu's eyes flashed. "This place is filled with poison. Let's leave first." Shui Yuanling nodded again and again. Light flashed around her body, but just as she flew up, the light faded away. She staggered and bitterly smiled. "I'm afraid fellow Daoist will have to bring me out." Qin Yu nodded. With several leaps, he arrived at her side. "Then I'll have to offend you." As he grabbed Shui Yuanling's wrist, a delicate fragrance wafted towards him, causing his heart to heat up. He quickly suppressed these thoughts and brought this woman along with him, quickly leaving along the path he had opened up to come here. As Shui Yuanling's wrist was grabbed by him, her face flushed red. She glanced at Qin Yu from the corner of her eyes and saw that his expression was calm and steady. She couldn't help but reveal a bit of praise. Because of her cultivation method, her aura had an extraordinary allure to the opposite sex. Qin Yu was so close so he could definitely feel it. Yet, his expression didn't change. From this, one could imagine just how tenacious his will was. The road was smooth and the two soon left the magic-devouring demon spider's territory. Qin Yu let go and took several steps back. Shui Yuanling thanked him once more. "I also had some harvests in the infinite realm. I wonder if fellow Daoist has anything you need." Qin Yu waved his hand. "It's nothing, there's no need for a reward. It's just that I have something I hope Miss Shui can tell me." Shui Yuanling nodded. "Fellow Daoist, may I ask?" Qin Yu's eyes brightened. "I wonder if Miss Shui knows Ningling." Shui Yuanling's heart skipped a beat but her complexion didn't change. She pretended to think for a moment and then said, "I don't know her." Qin Yu frowned. "According to what I know, Ningling is also a disciple of the Immortal Sect and she is currently in the Infinite Realm. As a disciple of the Immortal Sect, how could Miss Shui not know?" Shui Yuanling's thoughts raced. Fellow Daoist might not know, but the Immortal Sect is only an honorific title in the outside world. In truth, our sects are all different. They are called the Lucid Nether Realm, Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace, and Heart Mountains Buddhist Kingdom. The three great immortal Dao sects are not subordinate to each other and they have many disciples, so it's normal that I don't know this fellow Daoist Ningling. Qin Yu didn't doubt her. He was a bit disappointed and nodded. "Since that's the case, then I will bid my farewells." "Hold on." Shui Yuanling smiled. "May I ask for fellow Daoist's honored name?" Although I don't know Ningling, the three immortal sects are allies and the relationship between our disciples has always been good. Perhaps there are other disciples in my sect that know her. I might be able to pass on some information for fellow Daoist. Qin Yu thought for a moment. "Then I'll have to trouble Miss Shui. My name is Qin Yu. If you can find Ningling, you only need to tell her that I have arrived at the land of divinity and demons and have her wait for me in peace." He cupped his hands together and then turned around, vanishing from sight. Shui Yuanling watched Qin Yu leave. She could no longer maintain her calm expression. Her eyebrows furrowed together, a complex look in her eyes. She sighed and shook her head. She took out a pill and swallowed it. A moment later, light flashed around her and she flew off into the distance. 4 hours later, Shui Yuanling's figure appeared in a temporary camp. This was where the Immortal Sect disciples were gathered. Senior Apprentice Sister Shui. With a light cry of joy, an Immortal Sect female cultivator appeared. Her flawless appearance caused the eyes of the several immortal sect disciples to brighten. But soon, they lowered their heads, not daring to look at her any longer. This female cultivator was Ning Ling. Shui Yuanling revealed a stiff expression. She smiled and said, "Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling." Ning Ling said, "Senior apprentice sister Shui hasn't arrived yet. I was just about to report this to senior apprentice brother Wenren and ask him to send people out to look for you. I can see that senior apprentice sister's aura is very weak. Did you encounter some trouble?" Shui Yuanling nodded. "I was careless and fell into the ambush of a magic-devouring demon spider. It took me a great deal of strength to escape." She smiled. "There are some matters I need to report to senior apprentice brother Wenren. I will bid my farewells first." Ning Ling looked at Shui Yuanling, who was hurrying away, and frowned. Senior apprentice sister seemed a bit strange today. Ever since she joined the immortal sect, she had been taken care of by Shui Yuanling and was extremely grateful to this warm-hearted senior apprentice sister. She didn't think too much about it and flew back to her dwelling. "Is senior apprentice brother Wenren here?" Shui Yuanling requests an audience. Outside the tent, Shui Yuanling respectfully said. After several breaths of time, a gentle voice sounded out. "Junior apprentice sister Shui, please enter." The light at the entrance of the tent vanished. Shui Yuanling lowered her head and walked in. Wenren Dongyue was sitting cross-legged. At this time, he smiled at her. His deep and serene eyes were like the vast starry skies, making one unable to help but be lost in them. Shui Yuanling's face blushed red. She quickly bowed. Wenren Dongyue smiled. "Junior apprentice sister, you came so late. Did something happen?" Shui Yuanling looked around. She wanted to speak but hesitated. Wenren Dongyue flicked his sleeves and the light at the entrance gushed out once more. His smile didn't change. "You can speak now." Shui Yuanling clenched her teeth. "On the way to the camp, I was ambushed by a magic-devouring demon spider. Afterwards, I was rescued by a cultivator. His name is Qin Yu." Wenren Dongyue frowned. Qin Yu. He thought back to the chessboard of heaven and earth and Ning Ling's reaction upon hearing this name. His smile faded a little. After several breaths of silence, he said, "Is it the same person?" Shui Yuanling said, "That person is also looking for junior apprentice sister Ning Ling. He asked me about her, but I declined." Wenren Dongyue's expression had already returned to normal. He smiled and said, "I've made things difficult for junior apprentice sister Shui." Shui Yuanling hurriedly said, "This Qin Yu's background is unknown. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling is incomparably important to my immortal sect, so how could I allow him to casually approach us?" This answer satisfied Wenren Dongyue. His smile became even warmer. "Junior apprentice sister Shui, do you know who this Qin Yu is?" Shui Yuanling said, "Qin Yu asked me to pass a message to junior apprentice sister Ning Ling. He said that he has arrived at the land of divinity and demons and that junior apprentice sister Ning Ling can wait for him in peace." She hesitated for a moment and then continued to say, "From what I can see, this Qin Yu isn't weak. He might have a way to find the immortal sect." Wenren Dongyue smiled. "I think he is an old acquaintance of junior apprentice sister Ning Ling in the land of exiles. He was attracted by junior apprentice sister Ning Ling's elegant demeanor and chased after her until now. He really is an idiot. But with junior apprentice sister's current status, how could he possibly have the qualifications to approach her? In the end, it will all be for naught." His hand flashed with light. "Junior apprentice sister Shui has worked hard. This is a blue water origin energy fruit that I obtained in the Nine-Realm Holy Land. It should be of some help to junior apprentice sister's future cultivation." Shui Yuanling was overjoyed. Thank you, Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren. She received the deep green fruit that emitted a rich water vapor. The guilt she felt towards Qin Yu completely vanished. As Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren said, with Junior Apprentice Sister Ning Ling's current status, how could anyone have the qualifications to approach her? She told Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren this because she considered the sect, there was nothing wrong with that. Shui Yuanling put away the blue water origin energy fruit and respectfully bowed to leave. When there was only Wenren Dongwei left in the tent, a thoughtful look crossed his face. After a long time, his lips curled up in a smile. He was only a nameless nobody in the land of exiles. Even if he had some lucky chances and came to the land of divinity and demons, or even entered the infinite realm, how could he compare with him? Moreover, the infinite realm was about to close. As long as he returned to the immortal sect, he would have plenty of time to move. Junior Apprentice Sister Ning Ling Wenren Dongwei was fully confident in this. As for Qin Yu, it would be best if he gave up. But if he really dared to come to the immortal sect to look for her, Wenren Dongwei had his own methods to make him return empty-handed and even make him suffer. Chapter 402. In the dark cave, Qin Yu's eyes flashed open. With the help of pills and the powerful regenerative abilities of the demon body, he had already dispelled the magic-devouring demon spider's poison from his body. He stood up. Feeling the tyrannical strength coursing through his body, Qin Yu smiled. Perhaps with just the strength of his mortal body, he could kill ordinary divine soul cultivators. As for the second stage of the demon body's awakening, the might of the choking finger was beyond his expectations. Besides not being able to find Ning Ling, the harvests of this trip to the infinite realm could be called astonishing. Qin Yu roughly calculated what he had obtained. In Bronze Bell Ancient City, he joined forces with Qin Hanshi to kill an evil spirit and obtained a portion of its blood marrow. This could be refined into a blood marrow pill that could stimulate one's bloodline. In a danger zone in a mountain valley, two terrifying life forms perished together and he obtained materials to refine the superstorm flow. A broken bell. This object seemed ordinary and didn't give off any fluctuations of strength, but Qin Yu couldn't damage it in the least. Just from the materials alone, he could tell it was extraordinary. A crescent purple moon in his soul space. He had obtained this after passing the divine sense test. Although he didn't know all of its mysteries, just what he knew now was enough to help his soul rapidly grow. Demon body reached large success and he had awakened the choking finger one after another. Its killing might was astonishing. Eternal primordial fruit's core. Once the space of nothingness was restored, he could cultivate it into a fruit tree and harvest it. Rest Loam. An unknown and mystical treasure that was born from. It had the ability to condense a world and repair a world. It could help the space of nothingness rapidly regenerate. Although the status of the nine-realm Holy Land Saint's son seemed useless, it actually brought tremendous advantages to Qin Yu. Moreover, once he managed to awaken his cultivation in the future, there would be unimaginable harvests. If other cultivators who entered the infinite realm were to learn of these harvests, their eyes would turn red with greed. But this wasn't without a price. His partner's soul spirity had fallen into a deep slumber, and it was unknown when she would awaken. Moreover, she had deceived the demon altar and taught Qin Yu the spirit lock technique. This had already violated the will of the demon altar. Once it was discovered in the future, it would surely be a disaster. The summoned life form Undying was also slumbering in the shadows. In the battle with the underworld great commander, he had suffered severe losses. Luckily, his condition was still stable. At this time, a strange fluctuation suddenly arrived. Qin Yu could feel the repulsive strength of the infinite realm. Without resisting, he allowed this repulsive strength to envelop him. He knew that the infinite realm was about to close. Schwa, space twisted and Qin Yu's figure vanished from sight. In the next moment, his entire body was wrapped in brilliant colors. Without accident, once his vision was restored, he would return to the land of divinity and demons. Immortal Sect Cultivator Encampment. When the repulsive strength of the infinite realm arrived, Wenren Dongwa smiled. He lifted a hand and a jade scepter appeared. It emitted a dark light that drew in all the repulsive strength, forming an array formation around the camp. Junior brothers and sisters, let's go. He stepped into the array formation first. Ningling and the other Immortal Sect disciples followed behind. The array formation flashed. Together with the Jade Scepter, all the Immortal Sect disciples were transported away. Far away, in a blood-colored lake, Wuma Sijan coldly opened his eyes and glanced at the sky above him. After he left the Nine-Realm Holy Land, he had coincidentally stumbled upon this lake of blood. It was extremely beneficial to his cultivation of the demonic path's mystic arts, but unfortunately, 2 months was far too short a time. Let's go. Wuma Sijan flew out from the blood lake. A black robe condensed around him. He lifted a hand and punched out. Space directly shattered, collapsing inwards into a black channel. At the edges of this channel, countless demonic runes flowed about, smoothing out the chaotic power of space and forming a stable and orderly transmission path. And these demonic runes were exactly the same as the runes on a black ring on Wuma Sijan's finger. Whoosh, whoosh, the demonic path cultivators flew in and the black channel rapidly vanished. The mottled colors in front of him rapidly shook. But at this time, a strange fluctuation swept over Qin Yu. In the next moment, a giant face appeared in the skies of the infinite realm. Its eyelids violently trembled, as if it were using up a great deal of strength to open them. Rest Loam, a deep and low sound emerged from its mouth. As it spread out in all directions, it turned into rumbling thunderclaps. A silent tremor swept through the entire infinite realm along with the sound of thunder, forcefully breaking apart the transmission that was in progress. The mottled colors in front of Qin Yu rapidly collapsed. He stuffily coughed and fell to the ground. He looked around and discovered that he was still in the infinite realm. His complexion immediately became ugly. He could clearly sense that strange fluctuation just now. It had only swept past him for a moment, but he felt as if he had been completely seen through. At this time, Qin Yu's complexion changed. Without hesitation, his thoughts stirred and he instantly vanished, entering the token space. Bang! A boundless consciousness instantly arrived. It had clearly discovered the spatial token, but after a moment of silence, it actually chose to retreat. Within the token space, Qin Yu's arrival had alarmed Tuba and Tudu. They hurried over to greet him. Qin Yu's complexion was dignified. As the master of the token, he could clearly feel the boundless consciousness that had arrived from the outside world. This consciousness fluctuation was vast and grand, but it was also cold and indifferent, as well as a bit stiff. Qin Yu's pupils shrank. This was the consciousness of the infinite realm's rules. Or, it could be said that this was the last remaining world will of the broken world of the infinite realm. Qin Yu's thoughts raced. If what he said before was just a guess, then he could now confirm that the reason why the transmission had suddenly stopped was because of him. The infinite realm's rules wouldn't target him for no reason. Qin Yu soon guessed that it was related to the rest loam he gave to the little blue lamp. After all, this thing had the powerful effect of repairing a world. If the infinite realm's rules could obtain it and fuse the rest loam into the infinite realm, then even if it couldn't restore the entire world, it could at least extend its existence. Thinking of this, Qin Yu began to worry. Even if it was only the will of this broken world, it wasn't something he could contend with. But now, Qin Yu had no other choice. He bitterly smiled. Indeed, there were gains and losses. If it weren't for the rest loam, how could he have been targeted by the infinite realm's will? Within the infinite realm, Chenyu had no chance of escaping. In fact, as long as the infinite realms will wished for it, it could keep him here forever. Thinking of this, Chenyu's complexion became even uglier. Suddenly, Chenyu's eyes lit up with surprise. This was because he could clearly feel that the infinite realms had vanished. Had it lured him out, or had it given up? Chenyu's eyes were cloudy and uncertain. He said in a low voice, "If there is an accident, I will summon the two of you. Be careful." Tuba and Tuda nodded. Their bones crackled and billowed with blood energy. It was clear they were prepared to risk their lives. Chenyu clenched his teeth. His thoughts stirred and his figure instantly vanished. He was well aware that if the infinite realms wasn't willing to let him go, there would be no chance for him to escape. Unless he could last until the infinite realm collapsed, waiting 100 years was no different from leaving now. Shua, Chenyu appeared where he was, his back as taut as a bow. But after waiting for a moment, the infinite realms still hadn't arrived. Had it given up? Chenyu thought for a moment. He thought that it was likely that his status as the Nine-Realm Holy Land Saint's son had played a role here. He let out a long breath. It was only then that he discovered that his robes were soaked in a cold sweat and his back was sticking to his body. His blood energy revolved and his robes became dry again. Chenyu sent a sound transmission to the token to cancel the alarm. He looked around, a look of hesitation on his face. The transmission had been interrupted. Although the infinite realms hadn't arrived, how could he leave? Suddenly, a boundless spatial fluctuation came from the distance. Chenyu's complexion changed. He stepped forwards and raced towards the source of the fluctuation. Soon, Chenyu's face lit up with joy. He shouted out loud, "Fellow Taoists, please wait a moment." In front of him, two people came to a sudden stop, vigilance on their faces. Chenyu cupped his hands together. "When I was about to leave, the transmission was suddenly interrupted. I wonder if you two were also the same." One of them sensed Chenyu's aura and his complexion relaxed. He said, "The two of us were also the same." He didn't dare to show any contempt on his face. To be able to last until the infinite realm closed and not appear distressed at all, unless they had been hiding all this time or their luck was heaven-defying, there was no one easy to deal with. The other person invited, "The two of us were about to head towards the spatial fluctuations. Fellow Taoists should also be going the same way, so how about we go together?" Chenyu hesitated for a moment and then nodded. "That's fine." The three people walked together. They constantly encountered other cultivators along the way. After asking them, they learned that the transmission had been interrupted. Chenyu relaxed a little. It seemed that it wasn't just them. If so, then the situation could still be salvaged. But as he heard the curses of the people around him, he revealed a bit of helplessness. He thought that if these people knew that the transmission was interrupted because of him, they would definitely turn hostile. The group grew larger and larger until there were over 30 people. But everyone was wary of each other and wary of each other. Chenyu got along well with the first two people he met. Through their conversation, he learned that these two people came from the Central Mountain Nation's Great Equipment Pagoda sect. Most of the cultivators in the pavilion were skilled in refining artifacts and had a certain level of fame. As for Chenyu, he casually said a few words to weave an identity for himself. The two Equipment Pagoda cultivators didn't care too much about it and didn't reveal any flaws. Suddenly, there was a cry of alarm from the front of the group. Chenyu glanced at the two Equipment Pagoda cultivators and then both sides sped up. Soon, a giant spatial gate appeared in front of them. The outline of this gate had already appeared, but it hadn't completely condensed yet. A cultivator skilled in spatial array formations carefully stepped forwards to examine it. Soon, they obtained news that left them pleasantly surprised. This spatial gate was connected to the land of divinity and demons. I knew that it was impossible for the infinite realm to let us stay here. They would definitely give us a chance to leave. Although the infinite realm is good, it is far too dangerous. Moreover, the rules here aren't complete. It is not a place to stay for long. Once the spatial gate is complete, you and I can leave this place. Qin Yu's face lit up with a smile. But soon, he was stunned for a moment before revealing a look of excitement. Looking around, he could see cultivators gathering from all directions. In addition, he could only sense violent spatial fluctuations in front of him. In other words, this was the only spatial gate in the entire infinite realm. Ning Ling would also come here. Thinking of this, Qin Yu couldn't help but laugh out loud. He never imagined that after searching for so long, he would finally obtain what he wanted. Chapter 403. At this time, how could Qin Yu have any thoughts of paying attention to these two people? His eyes widened with anticipation as he looked around. More and more cultivators arrived at the spatial gate. Gradually, there was a hubbub of voices. But, he still didn't see Ning Ling arrive. Qin Yu was secretly worried. Could the immortal sect have some method to break through the infinite realm's rules and forcefully leave? As Qin Yu was frowning, a cry of alarm rang out, interrupting his thoughts. Demonic path cultivators. There were numerous demonic cultivators in the land of divinity and demons, but the only ones that could cause such a reaction were the unsurpassed demonic path that stood above the world and overlooked the boundless world. Wuma Sijan stepped into the void. He frowned, slaughter energy tumbling around him. His every movement overflowed with a domineering aura that swept out in all directions. The demonic cultivators behind him all had tyrannical auras. An invisible aura rose up and massive demonic clouds formed above their heads. Countless demon phantoms appeared, all of them emitting mournful roars. As these roars entered the ears of those with weaker cultivations, they felt a chill in their hearts and their fears soar. Demonic might blotted out the heavens. Qin Yu revealed a dignified expression. He could feel the terrifying aura contained within the body of the demonic path's leader. Although this person was only at the peak of divine soul, his true strength had reached an inconceivable level. He could be called the strongest divine soul he had ever seen. A cold light flashed in Wuma Sijan's eyes. He looked down at the ground. Qin Yu's heart skipped a beat. He didn't think this person would be so vigilant. He quickly lowered his head to avoid the attack. Wuma Sijan's gaze fell on Qin Yu, a thoughtful look in his eyes. At this time, his eyebrows shot up and he looked into the distance. He coldly said, "You people always have a bad habit of coming out last. I really hate it." His voice was thick and cold. As it spread through the air, the temperature of the surrounding space began to rapidly fall. Wuma Sijan, I know you are in a bad mood, but the name of my immortal sect is not something you have the qualifications to blaspheme. With a calm and steady voice, a group of cultivators stepped forwards. Their sleeves fluttered in the wind. The men were handsome and the women were beautiful, their bearing like that of immortals. In particular, the man at the front was slender and incomparably handsome. His eyes were incomparably bright, as if they could contain everything within them. Wuma Sijan sneered. He looked up and their gazes collided. Their gazes collided and the void trembled, stirring up strong winds. An invisible suppressive aura spread out in all directions, causing the cultivators to lower their heads and not dare to look directly at it. However, even though their gazes collided, it didn't affect Qin Yu in the least. He looked at the immortal sect crowd and at that familiar figure. Her appearance hadn't changed at all, but her temperament had become even more ethereal and ethereal. Looking at that face that haunted his dreams, Qin Yu smiled. Ning Ling, I've finally found you. Amongst the immortal sect cultivators, Ning Ling frowned. Senior apprentice brother Wenren and Wuma Sijan were fighting, but there were actually people watching her from the ground. She was already used to this kind of thing, but the gaze from below had been on her for too long. Ning Ling took a deep breath, her eyes cold and indifferent. She naturally had her own methods to make this lecher suffer a bit. In the next moment, two pairs of eyes met. Ning Ling could clearly see a smiling figure standing in the crowd. Her body stiffened and her eyes widened. Ning Ling covered her mouth and blinked several times, finally determining that this wasn't an illusion. In that instant, Ning Ling's memories flew far away. Her thoughts blurred as countless scenes flowed through her mind. She thought of East Stream Town, of that young man who had peeped at her skirt but had remained calm. She thought of the calm black-robed figure who had faced the demonic path cultivators. She thought of the Eastern Mountain sect, of how he had indifferently faced the endless taunts. She thought of the danger at Western Pass City, of how he had pretended to break through the enemy. She thought of the road back to the sect, of how he had calmly responded to the robbers. She thought of the peaceful scenery on the road home with him. She thought of Black Sky Demon's crazy pursuit, of how he hadn't abandoned her. She thought of the black robe that had covered her when she had woken up from unconsciousness. She thought of the Ning family's underground palace, of the figure that had appeared in front of her when she had fallen into despair and helplessness. She thought of the words that the immortal sect envoy had said, the land of divinity and demons. Senior apprentice Sister Ning, just go. No matter how far you go, I will find you. I have to know where Senior apprentice Sister Ning is going so that I can find you in the future. I understand. Senior apprentice Sister Ning, just wait for me. Tears blurred her eyes. She had always been anxious to hear these words, but after entering the immortal sect, she could only suppress them in the deepest depths of her heart. This was because Ning Ling knew that Qin Yu wouldn't have the chance to come to the land of divinity and demons, nor would it be possible for him to go to the immortal sect to find her. But now, Qin Yu had really come. Just as he had said before, he had appeared in front of her once more. Although she didn't know how much he had suffered, Ning Ling could imagine that Qin Yu didn't have any foundation at all. If he wanted to enter the land of divinity and demons and come to the infinite realm, he would have to pay countless times more than she did. Ning Ling could even guess that the reason Qin Yu had entered the infinite realm was to find her. Surging emotions gushed out from the depths of her heart. Ning Ling was no longer able to suppress them. She didn't want to resist them either. Her figure flashed and she flew straight towards Qin Yu. Although the land of divinity and demons was good, she was all alone and there were countless covetous eyes staring at her. Dealing with this left her feeling haggard and tired. If it weren't for her powerful bloodline, she feared she would have already become the exclusive property of some immortal sect powerhouse. Loneliness, fear, oppression, all of these things had always shrouded Ning Ling. She could only use her cold and indifferent outer shell and display an even more outstanding performance to resist all of this. But now, Ning Ling discovered that her heart was still weak. When her eyes fell on Qin Yu, she subconsciously took him as her pillar of support. She had many things she wanted to say to him. She hoped that in the future, she would never be separated from Qin Yu again. There was a cry of alarm from the ground. Countless cultivators were shocked by the confrontation between Wenren Dongyue and Wuma Sijan. They subconsciously looked up and their eyes widened, as if they had been struck by lightning. They froze where they were. They saw the most beautiful figure in the immortal sect fly over like a tired bird. Without any hesitation, she threw herself into the arms of a man. This scene created an intense psychological impact on them. Then, they inexplicably felt grief and indignation. To sum it up, there was only one question: why? This sort of fairy-like person should have flown above the highest heavens, her eyes indifferently overlooking the endless world and disdainfully disdainful of men made of dirt. So, how dare you hold her in your arms and hold her so tightly? Not too far away from the spatial gate, several cultivators were left dumbfounded. The scene in front of them left them unable to regain their composure for a long time. Su Wenzi said in a daze, "Master, truly worthy of being a master. I can only prostrate myself in admiration." A dark light flashed in Foam Union's eyes. So he already had this sort of soulmate. Qin Hanshi smiled. He thought that this Qin Yu was truly amazing. Without saying anything, he had managed to capture the heart of an immortal sect fairy maiden. It was no wonder that he looked down on my cousin. He carefully looked at Ningling. There were tears of excitement on her face, as well as the joy that came from her heart. Even Qin Hanshi couldn't help but feel envious. To have such an unparalleled beauty, Brother Qin is truly blessed. Tian Yun smiled. He knew that nothing would happen to Qin Yu. He still hadn't repaid the Titan tribe's life-saving graciousness. Beside him, Xiong Dailin carefully took a step back. She lowered her head and sighed inwardly. She really wanted to cry. They had clearly been about to leave the infinite realm, but who would have thought that the transmission would be stopped? Now, there was only a single spatial gate in the infinite realm. As expected, they had run into this evil star. "You can't see me, you can't see me, you can't see me," with everyone's eyes locked onto the peerlessly powerful Wenren Dongyue and Wuma Xijan, they both frowned, ill intent in their eyes. However, Wuma Xijan instantly composed himself. He said with a sound transmission, "Wenren Dongyue, it looks like someone has already beaten you to it. Congratulations." Killing intent flashed in Wenren Dongyue's eyes before he composed himself. He lightly said, "The immortal sect does not restrict disciples from associating with Tao companions. Junior apprentice Sister Ningling can choose for herself." Wuma Xijan laughed. "In terms of endurance, I admire you." Wenren Dongyue remained expressionless. Blue veins popped up on his forehead. He clenched his fists within his sleeves, his nails sinking into his palms. Deep in his heart, he had already regarded Ningling as his future Tao companion. Now that he saw her in the arms of another man, even someone as proud as Wenren Dongyue, his mood could be imagined. He wished he could tear Qin Yu to pieces. But, he still maintained a calm expression. He casually turned his head and glanced at Shui Yuanling. Her complexion was pale and she nodded imperceptibly, crying inwardly. When they were rushing towards the spatial gate, she had a foreboding premonition. Senior apprentice Brother Wenren had also thought of this and had intentionally delayed for a while. But in the end, he hadn't been able to avoid it. And what worried Shui Yuanling the most was that she had once told Qin Yu that she didn't know Ningling. Once this matter was exposed, Ningling would surely distance herself from her. At that time, she would no longer have any value to her senior apprentice Brother Wenren. She feared that she would never be able to obtain any benefits from him again. The immortal sect disciples were shocked, disbelief in their eyes. The normally proud and indifferent junior apprentice Sister Ningling, who didn't care about any man, had actually thrown herself into the arms of a man on her own initiative. If they didn't see this with their own eyes, they would have never believed it. Jealousy, indifference, envy, icy coldness, and all sorts of other emotions filled their eyes. The female cultivator surnamed Ding revealed a happy expression. She glanced at Wenren Dongyue, thinking that with Ningling's performance, would senior apprentice brother be disappointed in her? If so, then perhaps she would have a chance. Yu Bai's complexion paled and his eyes were icy cold. He knew that he couldn't compare with Wenren Dongyue, so he had given up on attacking Ningling on his own initiative. But who was this person in front of him? How could he dare to hug the person he yearned for even in his dreams? His heart tumbled with rage, wishing that he could destroy everything in front of him. But at this time, he had no reason to vent his anger. He nearly suffered internal injuries. At this time, Yubai discovered that beside him, an immortal sect disciple revealed a look of hatred, fear, and worry. In the blink of an eye, Yubai recalled that this disciple had complained to him not too long ago that he had been humiliated by a cultivator and that even his guardian had been severely wounded. In the end, the guardian had perished because of some other danger. Yubai's eyes brightened. He carefully thought back to this immortal sect disciple's name. His lips moved and he sent a sound transmission. Junior apprentice brother Maidu, the person you mentioned to me some time ago, could it be this person? Maidu's complexion changed. Reporting to senior apprentice brother Yubai. I'm not too sure. Yubai was overjoyed. Since this person said this, then he wasn't wrong. His thoughts raced. He knew that this person feared Ningling and thus didn't dare to speak frankly. His voice slowed down and he lightly said, Junior apprentice brother Maidu, don't blame me for not reminding you. A great opportunity is right in front of you, you must not let it go. Maidu's eyes brightened. I ask senior apprentice brother to help me. Yubai said, senior apprentice brother Wenren is interested in junior apprentice sister Ningling. If you can identify this cultivator and judge him as an enemy of my immortal sect and ruin his chances of being together with junior apprentice sister Ningling, then senior apprentice brother Wenren will naturally give you benefits in the future. You can think about this yourself. If you are willing to do it, senior apprentice brother will help you. Of course, I also hope to take advantage of this opportunity to express my goodwill to senior apprentice brother Wenren. Maidu's heart heated up. He clenched his teeth. In any case, what he said was the truth. With senior apprentice brother Wenren's protection, even if he provoked Ningling, she still might not be able to deal with him. He looked at Yubai and nodded. Chapter 404. Qin Yu tightly held onto her soft and delicate body, smelling the fragrance she exuded. At this time, there was no distracting thought in his heart, only joy and unprecedented peace. He had struggled to survive in his youth, and it was only because of Auntie Gu's pity that he was able to continue living. Besides Ling, he didn't have a single relative in this world. When Qin Yu was weak, Ningling had walked into his heart and left behind an unerasable mark in the deepest depths of his heart. He had long regarded Ningling as his second family member. When they met again in the Gold Noble family, no one knew just how overjoyed Qin Yu was. For the first time, he sincerely thanked the heavens. But after a short period of time, just as the two of them had expressed their feelings to each other, Ningling had been brought to the land of divinity and demons by cultivators from the immortal sect. If it weren't for Yu Qi's help, it would have been impossible for the two of them to meet again. When they parted, Qin Yu's expression was calm and steady, filled with confidence. But there was also a bit of restlessness in his heart. He feared that he would never be able to enter the land of divinity and demons, and he feared that when he arrived after an unknown number of years, Ningling would already have a Tao companion. But now, all of these worries and fears vanished like snow under the scorching sun. Ningling had used her actions to soothe Qin Yu's mood. Hugging her, Qin Yu felt as if he possessed the entire world. All of the dangers and hardships he encountered along the way weren't worth mentioning at all. Ningling, I'm here. He slowly said. He suppressed his emotions, fearing that he would reveal the least bit of weakness in front of her. But Ningling could hear the trembling in his voice. Her tears flowed even faster. I'm sorry. Qin Yu, I'm sorry. I was too selfish. Qin Yu patted her back. It's not your fault. I know you have your difficulties, and I'm already here, aren't I? Ningling nodded. Qin Yu smiled. Although I want to keep hugging you, there are too many people here. If this continues, I fear that some people won't be able to help themselves and rush up to hit me. Ningling giggled, her tear-stained face causing Qin Yu's eyes to widen. Her charm left him stunned and his eyes widened. Ning Ling's face flushed red. She whispered, "You're not allowed to look." She took a step back from his chest. As she felt the countless shocked gazes around her, she couldn't help but blush even more. But she still stayed close to Qin Yu, unwilling to leave. Wenren Dongyue coughed. "Junior apprentice Sister Ning Ling, may I ask who this is?" Looking at her bashful expression, his heart felt even heavier. However, his expression became even calmer, and the corners of his mouth even revealed a faint smile. On the other side, Wuma Xizhan curled his lips and cursed him for being a hypocrite. Ning Ling bowed. "Reporting to senior apprentice brother Wenren, he is an old friend of mine from long ago. I never thought I would meet him in the infinite realm today." Although Wenren Dongyue's expression was natural, Qin Yu could still feel a trace of hostility from him. With a quick thought, he could guess the reason. A sharp light flashed in his eyes and he said, "Qin Yu greets fellow Daoist Wenren." As he spoke, he grabbed the soft hand beside him. Ning Ling was startled. She immediately understood Qin Yu's thoughts and glared at him, but she didn't pull her hand back. This naked declaration of sovereignty caused Wenren Dongyue's breathing to catch for a moment. His face stiffened for a brief moment before he lightly said, "So that's how it is." As he was thinking about how to deal with the situation in front of him, there was a roar of grief and indignation from the immortal sect group. "It's you!" Whoosh, a figure flew out. His eyes were red and filled with hatred as he stared at Qin Yu, his body shivering. Yu Bai praised. Although this Maidu's cultivation was sloppy and ordinary, his acting skills weren't bad at all. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, I have already given you an excuse. What happens next will depend on you." Looking over from the corner of his eyes, he saw Wenren Dongyue's eyes brighten. Deep in Yu Bai's heart, a trace of excitement rose up. A good show was about to begin. As an old member of the immortal sect, he had heard of senior apprentice brother Wenren's methods. As expected, Wenren Dongyue frowned. He scolded, "Junior apprentice brother Maidu, this fellow Daoist is junior apprentice sister Ning Ling's good friend. You cannot be insolent." He didn't stop Maidu and only casually reprimanded him. This caused Maidu's heart to calm down and his voice to become even more pained. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, it isn't that I don't understand the bigger picture and want to offend junior apprentice sister Ning Ling's good friend, but this Qin Yu has gone too far." He looked up at the skies, tears rolling down his cheeks. "When I was walking through the infinite realm, I encountered this person and was injured for no reason. He even plotted against my protector, causing him to perish. Senior apprentice brother Wenren, everything Maidu says is true. I ask senior apprentice brother to uphold justice for me." Whoosh, the immortal sect disciples were in an uproar. Most of them had extraordinary backgrounds and after entering the immortal sect, they were prides of heaven. As they walked through the world, it was always others who bowed their heads to them. When had they ever been bullied by others? Moreover, an immortal sect cultivator had died. How arrogant! He injured a disciple of my immortal sect and even caused the death of a protector. This is an unforgivable crime. He must pay the price for offending the dignity of my immortal sect. A debt of blood must be paid in blood. This is a matter of the heavens and earth. The ones roaring out were mostly male disciples. They had long since found Qin Yu displeasing to the eye. Now that they had a chance, how could they miss it? Wenren Dongyue frowned, a bright light in his eyes. He said in a low voice, "Junior apprentice brother Maidu, this is no trifling matter. Do not speak nonsense." Maidu was filled with grief and indignation. "I know that junior apprentice sister Ning Ling has an honored status, but when it comes to the dignity of my immortal sect and the death of a protector, how could I dare to act recklessly?" He lifted a finger and roared out, "Qin Yu, did you injure me? Did you plot against my immortal sect's protector and protector? Ning Ling's complexion changed. She never thought that the situation would suddenly reverse. She looked at him with an anxious expression. Qin Yu's silence caused her heart to sink. She hurriedly said, Qin Yu, there must be a misunderstanding here. Speak up and senior apprentice brother Wenren will help you clarify this. Wenren Dongyue nodded. That's right. My immortal sect will not let go of any enemy, but we will not wrongly accuse any good person either. Fellow Daoist Qin Yu, please speak the truth. Ning Ling revealed a grateful look. Qin Yu patted her hand. He slowly said, that's right. I did have a dispute with Maidu and injured him and the people around him. However, this matter is not what Maidu said. I didn't attack for no reason. Then, he explained the cause and effect of that day. I already knew that Ning Ling had joined the immortal sect, so why would I attack your immortal sect disciples? This matter doesn't make sense at all. Ning Ling's heart relaxed. She nodded. Senior apprentice brother Wenren, I believe what Qin Yu said. I fear that this matter was caused by someone trying to complain. Maidu subconsciously revealed a trace of fear as her cold eyes swept over him. But with things having come to this point, there was no longer any room for him to retreat. He sadly said, Senior apprentice brother Wenren, I admit that the way I conduct myself is a bit arrogant, but I have been taught by the immortal sect for many years and I would never do such a thing. This person is speaking nonsense and even wants to slander me and the protector that died. I ask senior apprentice brother to investigate this matter. Yu Bai took a step forward. He said in a low voice, Senior apprentice brother Wenren, I have some friendship with junior apprentice brother Maidu and I am well aware of his character. He would never do something so wild and arrogant. His eyes turned cold and his words had a double meaning. I ask senior apprentice brother to thoroughly investigate this matter and restore junior apprentice brother Maidu's innocence. If Maidu was innocent, then Qin Yu was naturally lying. The immortal sect disciples naturally supported Maidu. As they heard this, their eyes were filled with icy hostility. Ning Ling took a deep breath. Senior apprentice brother Wenren, Qin Yu would never do something like this. Wenren Dongyue had a solemn expression. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, this matter involves the reputation of my immortal sect, so we cannot be careless. But, I guarantee that I will thoroughly investigate this matter. His eyes fell. Fellow Daoist Qin Yu, do you have any proof of what you say? Qin Yu frowned. There were indeed some people that witnessed the entire process that day, but I don't know if they are willing to testify. Wenren Dongyue loudly said, Fellow Daoists, if anyone knows the truth of this matter, then please step forward and speak. I, Wenren Dongyue, guarantee that as long as what I say is true, the immortal sect will not pursue any responsibility. With the support of a formidable strength, his voice spread throughout the entire spatial gate. Su Wen's complexion was gloomy and uncertain. Beside him, Feng Yunyun revealed a moved expression. Protector Li grabbed her and shook his head with a solemn expression. In the silence, Wenren Dongyue revealed a cold intent. Fellow Daoist Qin Yu, it looks like those people you spoke of aren't here. Yu Bai shouted out loud, Senior apprentice brother Wenren, this person must be making things up, otherwise how could there be such a coincidence that not a single witness is here? He cupped his hands together. I ask senior apprentice brother to capture this person and take revenge for the cultivators of my immortal sect that died. Maidu fell to his knees. I ask senior apprentice brother Wenren to uphold justice. Stirred up by these two people, the immortal sect disciples were stirred to action. Tyrannical auras erupted, locking onto Qin Yu from afar. Wenren Dongyue lifted a hand and pressed down, his eyes becoming increasingly indifferent. Fellow Daoist Qin Yu, if you don't have any other evidence then I can only capture you. He turned and said, "Junior apprentice Sister Ning Ling, this matter involves the immortal sect's reputation as well as the lives and deaths of our disciples. I hope you can understand." Qin Yu's lips curved up in a mocking smile. So what if he was an immortal sect disciple? If he really wanted to falsely accuse him, did he really think he wouldn't have the strength to resist? That's right, Wenren Dongyue was indeed formidable. As an outstanding disciple of the immortal sect, he definitely had many methods at his disposal. But Qin Yu didn't fear him. Under the Spirit Lock's secret art, he could greatly increase the amount of time he could use the power of the burning heavens. In addition to the large success of the demon body and the throat-locking finger, he was confident he could bring Ningling away. The immortal sect was indeed powerful, but the land of divinity and demons had an infinite territory. If the two of them hid somewhere, would they really be able to find them? As if feeling the icy cold aura that Qin Yu released, Ningling tightened her grip. She said with a sound transmission, "Qin Yu, don't be impulsive." She was well aware of senior apprentice Brother Wenren's formidable strength. In the past, he had once cut down a revered Blue Sea Realm demonic cultivator by himself. How could Qin Yu resist? Seeing the worry in Ningling's eyes, Qin Yu thought about how she was still a disciple of the immortal sect. He took a deep breath and suppressed the chill in his heart. His eyes fell on a certain spot and he lightly said, "Everyone, on that day, I helped you vent some of your anger. Do you really want to stare blankly on as I am framed?" Shua, countless eyes gathered on him. Su Wenze and the others stiffened, a bit of unnatural expression on their faces. As these expressions fell into everyone's eyes, they began to whisper inwardly. Maida's eyes revealed a trace of panic. He could only grit his teeth and endure. Wuma Sijan laughed. How interesting, how interesting. Today was truly a wonderful show. If all of you look so flustered, I fear there must be some secret behind this, right? Wenren Dongyue shouted out loud, "Wuma Sijan, this matter is of great importance. If you interfere without reason, then don't blame me for being ruthless." Wuma Sijan's eyes turned cold. He coldly stared back at Wenren Dongyue. As he felt the icy coldness in Wenren Dongyue's eyes, he frowned inwardly. He sneered and no longer spoke. He could see that Wenren Dongyue had taken a liking to Ningling. If he continued to tangle with him, he feared he really would erupt. Although he wasn't afraid, offending Wenren Dongyue for no reason wasn't a wise move. Su Wenze's forehead dripped with a cold sweat. He hesitated several times before finally lowering his head. The several people around him were panic-stricken. They nearly curled up into a ball. Yu Bai sneered. "Qin Yu, don't try to deny it anymore. These fellow Taoists clearly don't know you, so how can they testify for you? You've repeatedly evaded responsibility, so it's clear that you have a guilty conscience in your heart. I will capture you and interrogate you using the immortal sect's secret techniques. I will have you lower your head and admit your guilt." Qin Yu sighed inwardly. He looked at Ningling, an apologetic look in his eyes. It seemed that things had entered an irreversible situation. He looked up, an icy smile on his face. Just as he was about to attack, a voice suddenly echoed out. "I can testify that Qin Yu isn't lying." Feng Yunyun bit her lip, her face pale. Beside her, Protector Li bitterly smiled, worry in his eyes. Su Wenze fiercely looked up, his face shaking with disbelief. Chapter 405. Outside the spatial gate, countless cultivators were stunned. After a moment of shock, they all revealed looks of excitement. Someone had actually stepped forward to testify for them. Didn't they know that doing so was the same as slapping the immortal sect in the face? This was going to be fun. If the immortal sect cultivators couldn't properly handle this matter, Then once everyone returned to the land of divinity and demons, news of this matter would spread out in less than 2 days. At that time, it wouldn't be as simple as losing face. Panic flashed in Mighty's eyes as he screamed, "Who are you? How dare you slander my immortal sect?" Yubai shouted out, "Fellow Daoist, do you know what you are doing right now?" Feng Yunyan's face turned even paler, and a trace of fear appeared in her eyes. However, she eventually calmed down and said, "Since I came out to testify, I naturally know what I said." She lifted a hand and pointed. "This immortal sect disciple is called Maidu. He relied on his cultivation to steal the treasure we found. When fellow Daoist Qin Yu appeared and asked him, he directly attacked. After that, fellow Daoist Qin Yu wanted to leave, but Meidu ordered the Dao Protector and Protector to use the myriad submission secret art. Fellow Daoist Qin Yu was forced to resist, and that was how he managed to injure the two. I saw it with my own eyes. There is no falsehood in my words." Meidu became even more terrified. "Nonsense. I don't even know you. Speak. Why did you help Qin Yu commit perjury?" "Senior brother Wenren, this woman is lying." Wenren Dongyue frowned, dark clouds gathering in his heart. Yubai cupped his hands together. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, just this woman's words alone aren't enough to be trusted. How about we ask her companions and the truth will naturally be revealed?" Wenren Dongyue slowly nodded. "Yes." His eyes fell. "Everyone, please speak the truth." "What is the truth?" His words clearly expressed his attitude. The eyes of the surrounding immortal sect cultivators flashed with a cold light. If these people were to speak any nonsense, the reputation of the immortal sect would be tarnished and none of them would be able to escape punishment. Su Wenze and the others turned even paler, their eyes filled with fear. Yubai suddenly raised his hand and pointed. "Fellow Daoist, please speak." The chosen cultivator's legs went soft and he almost fell to the ground. I. He glanced at Feng Yunyan, his face filled with shame. "I don't know." Yubai shouted, "What do you mean I don't know? You just need to tell me if this woman is telling the truth or not." The cultivator's lips squirmed for a long time. Fake. Yubai's eyes lit up with joy. He looked towards the second cultivator. "Tell me, is it true or false?" "It's fake." The others did not wait for him to ask and nodded, indicating that Feng Yunyan was giving false testimony. Feng Yunyan's face paled. "You, shameless!" Yubai roared, "Shut up! You woman, you dare to slander a disciple of the immortal sect and damage the reputation of the immortal sect. This is a crime that cannot be forgiven." As he approached, Protector Li moved to block him. "Fellow Daoist, my family's young miss is a direct descendant of the Southern Peace Feng clan and has some relationship with the immortal sect. I ask that fellow Daoist be magnanimous and spare her this time." Yubai frowned slightly. The Southern Fengs might not have a resounding reputation, but they had a long history and a deep foundation. They were definitely not to be trifled with. His footsteps came to a halt as he hesitated. Wenren Dongyue lightly said, "The name of the immortal sect cannot be disgraced by anyone." Yubai's eyes lit up, revealing a dark intent. "Move aside." He lifted a hand and slapped outwards. Heaven and earth spiritual energy boiled up. With a loud rumbling sound, a blue palm appeared. This was also one of the immortal sect's great secret techniques, called the Blue Sea Hand. It was created by an almighty being of the immortal sect and had an extremely formidable imprisoning ability. Protector Li clenched his teeth. He lifted a hand and took out a tree root. He poured magic power into it and it began to wildly grow. In the blink of an eye, it wove into a thick wall of roots. "Humph, you overestimate yourself." Yubai shouted out, "Break for me." Bang! The thick wall of roots lasted for a breath of time before it was shattered by the blue hand. Protector Lee spat out a mouthful of blood and his body swayed. But he didn't retreat, standing in front of Feng Yunyun. Yubai coldly sneered. "Since you want to die, then I will help you." The blue hand moved even faster, its momentum astonishing. Su Wen's aside. He lifted a hand and took out an old piece of paper. It was unknown how many years it had been stored for, but the edges were curled up and the entire paper was beginning to turn yellow. But the moment this old paper was thrown out, the ink on it dimmed and the faintly dissipating characters suddenly erupted with endless golden light. Within this golden light, a figure appeared. This figure wore loose clothes and a blue scarf on his head. He had the style of a scholarly scholar. Although his face was blurry, his clear and bright eyes seemed to be able to see through all illusions in the world and reach straight to the heart. The illusory figure raised his hand and gently swiped forward. The hand of the sea blue suddenly paused, and then like a bubble, it quietly dissipated. Then, the phantom said in a soft voice, "I wonder which junior of my family has offended you. I ask that you give me face and forgive him for the time being." After speaking, the phantom dissipated. The old paper that released endless golden light ignited on its own, turning to ashes in the blink of an eye. Yubai's pupils violently shrank. He looked at Su Wenze with astonishment, shock, and even a bit of hidden fear. Wenren Dongwe frowned for a moment before composing himself. He took a step forwards and cupped his hands together across his chest. "So you are a descendant of Saint Wengong. Forgive me for my rudeness." Outside the spatial gate, the complexions of many people changed. Respect immediately appeared in their eyes. The land of divinity and demons had countless powerhouses. For the last tens of millions of years, many powerful existences had been born that dominated the world. But in terms of fame and prestige, no one could compare with Saint Wengong. It was rumored that Saint Wengong was originally a scholar. When he was 30 years old, he entered the Tao from Confucianism and truly stepped onto the road of cultivation. Afterwards, his progress was unstoppable. In just 1,000 years, he had become a supreme elder. Moreover, his supernatural powers were mysterious and unfathomable, most of them related to the Confucian school. His strength was incomparably formidable and he became the most dazzling existence in the endless river of time. 70,000 years ago, a space tunnel suddenly appeared, connecting to the Black Demon region outside. Countless demons descended and tormented the world, causing countless lives to perish. There were even powerful demons that used blood sacrifices to summon the ancestral demons to descend and thoroughly occupy the land of divinity and demons. At this critical moment, Saint Wengong bravely stepped forward. Using his own death as the price, he displayed a supernatural sealing ability that had never been seen before. On that day, the phantoms of thousands of scholars appeared between the heavens and earth, all of them chanting Confucian poems. Their vast and boundless momentum spread through the highest heavens and 10th earth. Countless characters condensed in the void, erupting with a rainbow-colored divine light. In a single move, the descending channel was sealed away, severely wounding the ancestral demons and causing a massive number of demons to perish. Then, 3,000 years later, all sides in the land of divinity and demons took action to exterminate all the demons, announcing the end of this invasion from a different world. Saint Wengong had sacrificed himself to seal away the descending channel. This was the same as saving trillions of lives in the land of divinity and demons. Moreover, there were rumors that before Saint Wengong perished, he had broken through to the level of a supreme elder and reached a point where he transcended the boundaries of a world. Even if the land of divinity and demons really did fall, he could still bring his family and friends to other worlds. It was because of this that Saint Wengong's actions obtained the respect of all cultivators in the land of divinity and demons. Even the most arrogant and despotic demonic path cultivators would reveal expressions of admiration when they mentioned Saint Wengong. After Saint Wengong perished, his family rapidly declined. Now, even the direct bloodline inheritance had dissipated. Those that survived were mostly branch bloodlines. The various influences in the land of divinity and demons had an unwritten rule. All descendants of Saint Wengong's bloodline, as long as they didn't commit any monstrous crimes, could be pardoned. This was to express their gratitude to Saint Wengong for his sacrifice in the past. Su Wenze revealed a pained expression. This old paper was his only copy. Meditating on it every day had a considerable effect on his cultivation. Thank you, young Master Su. Protector Li respectfully bowed, his eyes full of gratitude. Feng Yunyun supported him. She looked at Su Wenze and pursed her lips. I thought you would be the same as them. Su Wenze forced a smile. I indeed want to, but I can't just sit by and watch you be hurt. Feng Yunyun blushed red and lowered her head. Su Wenze's spirits rose and the pain in his heart faded a little. Although he had used up this precious Saint Wengong scroll, if he could exchange it for Feng Yunyun's favorable impression, it would be worth it. He took a deep breath and cupped his hands together. Fellow Taoists from the Immortal Sect, I was together with Miss Feng on that day. What she said about fellow Taoist Maidu was true. He paused for a moment and then said with a solemn expression, on this point, I am willing to guarantee it with the name of Saint Wengong. Yu Bai's lips moved but he didn't dare to speak again. Saint Wengong had an exalted status and his bloodline descendants were extremely protective of his reputation. If Su Wenze dared to guarantee it with the name of Saint Wengong, that was enough to prove that what he said was true. From the ground, a middle-aged cultivator stepped forward. He said in a low voice, Fellow Immortal Sect, I believe that fellow Taoist Su's words can be trusted. Another person stood up. As a bloodline descendant of Saint Wengong, unless one's thoughts are pure, it is impossible to activate the scroll left behind by Saint Wengong. This proves that fellow Taoist Su isn't lying. I ask fellow Taoists from the Immortal Sect to clearly investigate this lest you are deceived by others. I believe fellow Taoist Su's words. More and more people spoke up. This was the influence of Saint Wengong. Even after 70,000 years had passed, it still hadn't faded. Maida's face was deathly pale and his eyes were filled with fear. He looked at Yu Bai, but Yu Bai's head was lowered, no longer communicating with him. He could feel the icy cold anger in the eyes of his fellow sect cultivators behind him. His heart chilled and he felt even more regret. Wenren Dongyue took a deep breath. He solemnly said, My immortal sect also deeply admires the name of Saint Wengong. But on that day, everyone involved in this matter had different opinions. Once my immortal sect investigates the truth, we will naturally announce the results to the public. He cursed this idiot Maidu countless times in his heart. He actually didn't know that he had provoked a bloodline descendant of Saint Wengong, causing them to fall into an embarrassing situation. Even so, it was impossible for him to admit that it was a disciple of the Immortal Sect who had framed Qin Yu. If he used an investigation after the fact, he would naturally have a way to eliminate the effects of this matter in the future. His eyes swept over Qin Yu. Although Wenren Dongyue's complexion didn't change, he secretly clenched his fists. Could it be that he could only watch helplessly as Qin Yu approached Ningling? No, he absolutely could not. Wenren Dongyue turned slightly. He looked at Shui Yuanling, his lips moving. The woman's face stiffened and she revealed a look of hesitation. But as Wenren Dongyue's eyes turned cold, she shivered and quickly nodded. Wenren Dongyue took a deep breath and calmed his fluctuating mood. What he did today was completely different from his cultivation method, and it would even affect his future cultivation to a certain degree. But he didn't regret it. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling's bloodline was the key to him becoming a supreme elder in the future. He couldn't allow any accidents to occur. Anyone that dared to approach her would be his mortal enemy. I knew that the truth would be revealed. Ning Ling's face was full of joy. It's good that you believe me. As Yu thought of Ning Ling's reaction, his heart surged with warmth. He looked up at Feng Yunyun and Su Wenze and nodded. Feng Yunyun curled her lips. From now on, we don't owe you anything. As she finished speaking, she glanced at her several companions who had restless expressions. She coldly snorted and supported protectorly away. Su Wenze bitterly smiled and followed. As for the remaining people, their faces turned the color of pig liver. They were embarrassed and filled with grief and indignation. They also felt wronged. Without the background of Feng Yunyun and Su Wenze, what could small characters like them possibly do in the face of such a powerful immortal sect disciple? Yu smiled. This Feng Yunyun was someone who dared to love and hate. He hoped that today's events wouldn't cause any trouble for her. Seeing that the storm was about to pass, Ning Ling began to think about how to ease the relationship between Yu and the immortal sect disciples. After all, no matter what the reason was, Yu had still offended them. If the two of them wanted to be together in the future, they would inevitably have to deal with them. At this time, there was a flash of light and a female cultivator appeared in front of her. Ning Ling was overjoyed. Senior apprentice sister Shui. That was right, her best friend in the immortal sect was Shui Yuanling. She would introduce Yu to her first to ease the atmosphere. With senior apprentice sister's good relations in the sect, she should be able to make this matter much easier. Yu frowned. He looked at the female cultivator in front of him. This was the immortal sect woman he had rescued from the magic-devouring demon spider's jaws. His attention had been focused on Ning Ling and he hadn't noticed her. On that day, this woman had clearly said that she didn't know Ning Ling, but from what he saw today, it was clear that she had lied. A foreboding premonition rose in Yu's heart and his complexion darkened. Shui Yuanling's eyes flashed with shame before turning into determination. She coldly said, "You scoundrel, I never thought you would dare to appear here today." Her face was filled with grief and indignation. Tears filled her eyes and her body shivered. Ning Ling frowned. Senior apprentice sister Shui, do you know Yu? Shui Yuanling's tears fell. Junior apprentice sister, do you remember when the sect disciples were gathering and I was delayed for a long time, you even asked me what happened? Ning Ling nodded. I remember. Shui Yuanling pointed a finger. On that day, I encountered a magic-devouring demon spider. At the critical moment, I was saved by someone, and the one who saved me was this Yu. Her complexion paled. I originally thought that this person was chivalrous and righteous, but I never imagined that after Yu saved me, he would take advantage of the fact that my magic power had been scattered to do evil things to me. I desperately resisted and only then was I barely able to escape. Ning Ling's complexion changed. Impossible. Shui Yuanling bitterly smiled. Junior apprentice sister, don't forget what sort of law formula I cultivate. When I am seriously injured, I cannot suppress my aura at all. Moreover, does junior apprentice sister Ning Ling think that I wouldn't disregard my reputation and wrongly accuse this person for no reason? Ning Ling panicked. For a time, she didn't know what to say. She naturally knew that Shui Yuanling's cultivation method was a great temptation to men. It was fine if she restrained her aura normally, but once she didn't suppress it, it was enough to drive a man crazy. In addition, when Shui Yuanling lost the ability to resist, that would only fuel her crazy arrogance. Wenren Dongyue's complexion was ice cold. Junior apprentice sister Shui, are you sure the person you spoke of was Yu? Shui Yuanling fell to her knees. Even if that person turns to ashes, I will not mistake him for someone else. I ask senior apprentice brother to uphold justice for me. Bang! Wenren Dongyue's robes fluttered without wind. A terrifying aura erupted, overwhelming the world. Qinyu, how dare you! He lifted his hand. Light surged, causing one's heart to race. Ningling was startled awake. She spread out her arms and stood in front of Qinyu. Senior apprentice brother Wenren, don't. Wenren Dongyue coldly said, to dare to humiliate a female cultivator of the immortal sect, I must kill this person today. Junior apprentice sister Ningling, do you want to betray the sect? Ningling stiffened. Qinyu's eyes swept over Shui Yuanling, Wenren Dongyue, and all the other immortal sect disciples who were glaring at him with hatred, as if they wanted to tear him to shreds. The anger in his chest became increasingly hot, erupting like a volcano. He reared his head back and laughed. What a good immortal sect. It seems that seeing is believing 100 times. Do you really think that I can only be slandered and manipulated by you? Chapter 406. Wenren Dongyue's complexion was calm. He stepped forwards, his aura like a storm. As he circled around him, heaven and earth's spiritual energy stirred and rumbled. Very good. It's been a long time since someone has dared to openly provoke the immortal sect. His voice was calm, but every word he spoke was filled with a bone-chilling coldness. With a flick of his sleeves, a translucent golden phantom appeared, instantly covering Ningling. Wenren Dongyue said, Junior apprentice sister Ningling, you had best stay inside. Don't make things difficult for me. Qinyu's eyes turned cold. As he saw that this light phantom was only imprisoning him and didn't have any intention of harming Ningling, he relaxed a little. But, his complexion still turned frosty. Rumble, massive black clouds gushed out from the skies of the infinite realm. As they tumbled about, an aura that left one's heart racing fell down. This was the warning that the power of the rules felt threatened. Wenren Dongyue was expressionless. He glanced at the dark clouds in the skies and then took out a small golden furnace. He tossed it into the air and it instantly grew to several dozen feet. The inscriptions on its surface began to shine and an invisible aura was released from the furnace, shielding it from the surrounding aura. Beneath the skies, the dark clouds seemed to hesitate for a moment before rapidly dissipating. Countless cultivators revealed looks of amazement. To casually take out a treasure that could conceal such a large area of space, he was truly worthy of being an unfathomably deep immortal sect disciple. Many eyes fell on Qinyu and began to reveal looks of sympathy. Although Wenren Dongyue hadn't made a move yet, the feeling he gave off was no different from that of a teacher. Moreover, this person definitely had some hidden cards in his hand. If he fought with all his strength, it would be even more astonishing. Qinyu might not be weak, but how could he compare with the outstanding disciples of the immortal sect? But, everyone was muttering to themselves. Why did the immortal sect disciples always target Qinyu? Many people swept their eyes over Ningling and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. However, this was how the world was. The weak were prey to the strong, and the strong were respected. Since you were weak, you had no right to complain about the unfairness of the world. Qinyu had a calm expression. He took a deep breath and his heart began to vigorously beat. With just a thought, he could stimulate the power of the burning heavens. But at this time, Ningling's aura began to rapidly rise. She released a dazzling golden light, filled with dignity and honor. Junior apprentice sister Ningling, stop. If you forcefully increase your strength, you will hurt yourself. Qinyu shouted out loud, Ningling, I can deal with this. You don't need to do this. Ningling ignored their words. Soon, her aura reached its peak. It wasn't any weaker than Wenren Dongyue's. She raised her hand and pointed a finger forward. The light before her trembled violently before shattering into countless pieces like a mirror. Wenren Dongyue's eyes darkened as he looked at the shattered light screen. The killing intent in his heart rose even higher. Shua, Qingyu instantly approached and carefully supported her. I already said that I can deal with it, so why are you still trying to be brave? At first, he had some complaints, but when he saw the smile on her face, all that was left was warmth and gratitude. Ning Ling's complexion was pale. She wiped the blood from the corners of her lips and said in a soft voice, I'm sorry, Qingyu. I actually hesitated just now. With your personality, how could you possibly do something like taking advantage of others? She looked up and indifferently looked at Shui Yuanling. Senior apprentice Sister Shui, although I don't know why you slandered Qingyu, since you did this, you and I are enemies from now on. Shui Yuanling stiffened and sadness filled her eyes. She never thought that Ning Ling would say such cruel and direct words. It could be seen just how much she valued Qingyu. Today's events had thoroughly offended Ning Ling. As she thought of her special status in the immortal sect and her limitless future achievements, her heart became increasingly bitter. But with things having come to this point, it was impossible for her to turn back. She could only hope that senior apprentice brother Wenren would remember her contributions today and protect her in the future. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, everything that senior apprentice sister says is true. The human heart can change. I hope that you will not be deceived. Ning Ling's eyes became increasingly cold. She glanced at Shui Yuanling but didn't reply. She turned to Wenren Dongyue and said, Senior apprentice brother Wenren, I believe that it is impossible for Qingyu to do such a thing. Ning Ling is willing to use her life as a guarantee for him. Wenren Dongyue coldly said, Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, the evidence is conclusive. If I let him go, where would the prestige of the immortal sect go? Ning Ling was silent for several breaths of time. She slowly said, if that's the case, then I ask senior apprentice brother to step over my corpse and then kill Qingyu. Her voice was calm but her eyes were filled with decisiveness. Her aura that had fallen began to rise once more. Wenren Dongyue roared out, continuously stimulating your bloodline will cause irreparable damage to you. You might even harm your bloodline itself. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, do not make a mistake. Qingyu grabbed Ning Ling's hand. But beneath her gaze, he couldn't take the next step. Qingyu, you have done so much for me, but I have only blindly accepted it. Today, let me pay the price for you once. When you were so weak in the past, you were willing to risk your life for me. Do you think that Ning Ling can't do the same for you? She turned her head and coldly said, Senior apprentice brother Wenren, there is no need to speak any further. Today, no matter who it is, if they want to kill Qingyu then they will have to kill me first. Wenren Dongyue could feel her increasingly powerful aura. He roared out loud, good, I agree to give Qingyu a chance to prove himself. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, if there is someone here who is willing to guarantee for Qingyu like you, then I will temporarily set aside this matter. I will investigate this matter in the future and let the sect deal with it. But, if no one is willing to guarantee him, then you cannot stop me. However, I can guarantee you that I will only bring him back to the sect to be interrogated. I will not kill him today. Ning Ling was clearly moved. She looked at Qingyu. After a moment of hesitation, he slowly nodded. Tearing apart all pretense of cordiality with the immortal sect was the worst possible outcome. Moreover, with Ning Ling's status, she would be placed in a difficult position. Thank you senior apprentice brother Wenren. Ning Ling agrees. Ning Ling believed that Qingyu wouldn't make a decision so easily. Since he nodded, he should have confidence in himself. Wenren Dongyue's eyes brightened. Good. We have an agreement. His eyes swept around. Beneath the stimulation of his formidable strength, his voice spread far and wide. Fellow Taoists should have heard my agreement with junior apprentice Sister Ningling. Is there anyone who is willing to use their life as a guarantee for Qin Yu? There is something I must say first. If you step forward to guarantee him, that is the same as willingly accepting all consequences. If the immortal sect investigates in the future and discovers any problems, then the guarantor will be punished the same as Qin Yu. These words caused Ningling's heart to sink. After all, she hadn't personally experienced it. Besides Qin Yu, who would dare to take such a risk? Although Wenren Dongyue's words were a threat, they weren't excessive. She was secretly anxious, but she couldn't say anything. There was silence. Wenren Dongyue revealed a smile. Just as he was about to say something, he was interrupted by a voice. I am Tianyun from the Southern Overwatch Pass. I am willing to guarantee Qin Yu. Several cultivators stepped out from the crowd. The one who spoke was Tianyun. Wenren Dongyue's eyes turned cold. Who are you and what relationship do you have with Qin Yu? Tianyun had a light expression. Central Mound, Tian family. Whoosh, there was an uproar at the spatial gate. No one thought that they would run into a descendant of Saint Wengong today, but also someone from the Central Mound Tian family. They were different from Saint Wengong's noble character and unquestionable integrity, who sacrificed himself for the trillions of lives in the land of divinity and demons. The Central Mound Tian family was most famous for raising spirit plants. It was rumored that the Tian family had a moon-twining vine that originated from ancient times. After countless generations of painstaking cultivation, it had grown to the peak and had even undergone a mutation. Its strength was terrifying to the extreme, able to contend with almighty beings. Moreover, besides raising spirit plants, the Tian family's greatest reputation was for protecting their own. They had gone to war several times for their family disciples, causing heaven-shaking and earth-shattering commotion. Qin Yu revealed a look of surprise. He never thought that Tianyun would have such a great background. He glanced over and nodded. Tianyun smiled, his expression calm, as if he didn't fear Wenren Dongyue at all. Wenren Dongyue's complexion was icy cold. He was well aware that with Tianyun's status, he didn't need to fear the immortal sect too much. This was because the Central Mound Tian family was held in high regard by the Chu Empire's royal family, and in the boundless land of divinity and demons, the Chu Empire was the only super empire that had the confidence to contend with the immortal sect and demonic path. In the Chu Empire, if the immortal sect or demonic path wished to spread their teachings, they would first need to obtain the official approval of the Chu Empire. How hateful! This Qin Yu was clearly just a nobody from the land of exiles, and yet there were people standing up for him one after another, and each one of them had extraordinary statuses. Ningling happily said, Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren, since there are people here to testify, I hope you will keep your promise. Wenren Dongyue coldly said, Junior Apprentice Sister Ningling, please rest assured that I will keep my word. His icy gaze fell. Qin Yu, I will temporarily forgive you today. But once this matter is investigated, my immortal sect's law enforcement envoy will find you. In the heavens above, in the earth below, or even in the 9 nether realms, there will be nowhere for you to run. Qin Yu lightly said, I have a clear conscience, so I naturally have no need to run. Humph. Wenren Dongyue coldly coughed, his heart filled with ruthlessness. With his status, when had he ever been humiliated twice by a single person? This Qin Yu absolutely could not be allowed to live. As he thought about how Ningling didn't hesitate to kill herself for him, Wenren Dongyue's heart filled with even more killing intent. Yu Bai clenched his jaws, his heart filled with unwillingness. But even Senior Apprentice Brother Wenren had failed, so what could he do? In addition, with the example of Shui Yuanling in front of him and Ningling protecting Qin Yu, he didn't dare to attack again. Even if he was unwilling, he could only endure it. He had to endure it until he vomited blood in his heart. Yubai's eyes swept over Tianyun. It was all because of this bastard. If it weren't for him, how could Qinyu have escaped? But he also couldn't provoke the Tian family. At this time, Yubai's eyes inadvertently swept over several figures beside Tianyun. One of them was a female cultivator who caught his attention. This female cultivator glanced at Qinyu from time to time, her eyes filled with fear and unease, as if she were avoiding him. Although there were many possibilities in this situation, Yubai's intuition told him that this female cultivator definitely knew some secret. And this secret could completely strike down Qinyu. It would be impossible for him to approach junior apprentice sister Ningling ever again. Yubai clenched his teeth and sent a sound transmission. Senior apprentice brother Wenren, please look at the female cultivator behind Tianyun. With Wenren Dongyue's intelligence, this warning was enough. As he calmly glanced over, his eyes flashed. Without warning, Wenren Dongyue took a step forwards and instantly appeared beside Tianyun. Fellow Daoist Wenren, what is the meaning of this? Wenren Dongyue lightly said, I have no ill intentions, but there are some matters I would like to ask this fellow Daoist. Xiong Dailin panicked. She cursed at this immortal sect disciple. She didn't even have time to hide, and this person had actually come looking for her. She was finished, she was finished. This time she had definitely been discovered by that evil star. She looked up at Wenren Dongyue and discovered that his eyes were deep and boundless, like two spinning nebulas. She couldn't help but be lost in his gaze. Wenren Dongyue lightly said, Fellow Daoist, I see that you should know Qinyu. I wonder if you could tell me why you are so afraid of him. Xiong Dailin trembled. She clearly recalled some terrifying memories. Devil Apostle, he is a devil apostle, don't kill me. Wenren Dongyue's eyes brightened. In the next moment, Xiong Dailin regained her clarity of mind. As she thought about what she had just said, her complexion paled. She had actually spoken of that evil star's greatest secret. This time she was really done for. Not to mention what would happen to Qinyu, but as long as he spoke of her identity, she would fall into a hopeless situation. What I used was my immortal sect's secret skill, the soul-questioning art. What I said came from the depths of my heart, there is no mistake. Wenren Dongyue lifted a finger. Qinyu, you are actually a devil apostle. All cultivators of my land of immortal and demons have a duty to kill you. No wonder this nameless boy from the land of exiles was able to chase her all the way to the immortal sect and even had such a strong cultivation today. Now, everything had an explanation. He had actually sold his soul and signed a contract with an abyssal demon in exchange for a formidable strength. This was truly an unintentional willow. He never imagined that with this attempt, he would actually find Qinyu's life and death gate. Wenren Dongyue was filled with excitement. He was dead for sure. Tianyun's eyes widened as he looked at Xiong Dailin. He knew her true identity. Even if he didn't believe it, he couldn't help but be shaken. Could Qinyu really be a devil apostle? Thinking back to the giant tribe's sacred lake and the formidable strength he displayed, Tianyun's complexion became complex. Chapter 407. Miss, you call me a devil apostle, but do you have any proof? I can't shoulder a great crime just because of a few words. Qinyu slowly said. Xiong Yulin bit her lips. She looked at Qinyu, her eyes full of fear and hesitation. Wenren Dongyue coldly coughed. The soul-questioning art couldn't be wrong, so he wasn't afraid that Qinyu would lie. Miss, as long as you speak the truth, the immortal sect will guarantee your safety. Qinyu nodded. That's right. It's fine as long as you speak the truth. Xiong Yulin didn't know what he was thinking, but she had no other choice. She clenched her teeth and said, "Not too long ago, while I was on my way, I inadvertently met fellow Daoist Qin Yu." At that time, demonic energy billowed around him and his body had begun to transform into a devil. Wenren Dongwei frowned. Once a devil transformation began, it was impossible to reverse it. Qin Yu was still a human, so this proved that what Xiong Yulin saw wasn't a devil transformation, so he naturally wasn't a devil apostle. Tianyun let out a breath of relief, a smile on his face. If Qin Yu really was a devil apostle, then his previous guarantee couldn't be justified. Su Wenze was even more relieved than him. This bloodline descendant of Saint Wengong wiped the cold sweat from his forehead, a look of joy in his eyes. In the past, the ancestral demon that was severely wounded by Saint Wengong was rumored to have come from the abyss. If Qin Yu really was a descendant of a devil, perhaps Su Wenze could only atone for his sins with death. Yu Bai said in a low voice, "It isn't impossible for a devil transformation to maintain a human form. It is best to capture him and carefully examine him to avoid any accidents." Qin Yu revealed a taunting expression. "Fellow Daoist from the immortal sect, are you talking about the descent of a devil? If I really am a devil avatar, then let alone capturing me and examining me, I fear none of you from the immortal sect will be able to escape." Yu Bai paled. Wenren Dongwei stopped him from speaking. He turned and looked behind him, junior apprentice brother Jing. Shua, this immortal sect cultivator had an ordinary appearance. When he opened his eyes, a faint halo of light flowed around them. His eyes were bright and sharp, as if they could pierce through all illusions. Reporting to senior apprentice brother Wenren, this Qin Yu is indeed not a devil apostle. He doesn't have the aura of a devil on him, but... After a moment of hesitation, he apologetically looked at Ningling. "Fellow Daoist Qin Yu should have cultivated the demonic path's unsurpassed body tempering technique, the undying true demon body. Moreover, he has already reached a higher level and has some achievements." Wenren Dongwei was startled. Then, his eyes lit up with joy. "Junior apprentice brother Jing, is this true?" The Jing cultivator looked up. "The undying true demon body is extremely easy to distinguish. I don't think fellow Daoist Qin Yu would lie about this matter." Qin Yu nodded. "In my early years, I did indeed cultivate a demonic path body tempering technique, but it was called the demon body." Wenren Dongwei smiled. "So you are a disciple that was left behind by the demonic path. Fellow Daoist Qin Yu hasn't been accepted by the demonic path yet, so it's normal that you don't know this." His smile became even more relaxed. He continued to say, "Demon body cultivation is roughly divided into 7 stages: Lieutenant, Major, General, Commander, King, Sovereign, and Emperor. Depending on one's talent, their cultivation achievements are all different. There are many people in the demonic path who cultivate the demonic body, but only by reaching the king rank of the demonic body can one be considered to have truly reached the next level. Only then can one obtain the inheritance of the true demon's will and possess all sorts of inconceivable abilities. This is also why one has the qualifications to be called the immemorial true demon body. In the Devil Dao, anyone who steps into the immemorial true devil body level will directly become a direct descendant of the Devil Dao and obtain the title of Devil Son." As he spoke to hear, he looked up at Wuma Xizhan, who had been coldly watching from the sidelines. As he thought, Wuma Xizhan's eyes twitched and killing intent flashed in his eyes. Qin Yu's heart sank. He didn't think that Wenren Dongwei would be so kind as to specifically explain matters regarding the immemorial true demon body to him. There was likely some deeper meaning that he didn't know about. He looked up at Ningling. Her face was deathly pale and the despair in her eyes caused Qin Yu's heart to tremble. He quickly grabbed her hands and asked, "Ningling, what is it?" Before Ningling could reply, Wenren Dongwei shouted out, "Let go." His eyes darkened. You are the demon's son of the demonic path, yet you dare to approach the direct descendant of my immortal sect. Shut up! Qin Yu shouted out. He felt increasingly restless. A wild aura tumbled around him and billowing black clouds appeared in the skies above his head. When Ren Dongyue had taken away the aura-shielding furnace and the Infinite Realms rules were able to sense the fluctuations here once more. When Ren Dongyue's pupils shrank. Qin Yu had followed junior apprentice sister Ning Ling into the land of divinity and demons. In such a short period of time, he actually possessed such strength. The speed at which he grew was simply unimaginable. At this time, the spatial gate also let out a low cry. As they felt Qin Yu's wild aura, they instinctively revealed awe in their eyes. Ning Ling was stunned. She anxiously said, Qin Yu, stop, stop. Qin Yu's breathing slowed down. He stared into her eyes and said, tell me, what secrets does the undying true demon body have? Ning Ling's tears flowed down. Her lips moved, but she didn't know what to say. When Ren Dongyue coldly said, Qin Yu, let me tell you the reason. In the land of divinity and demons, the immortal and demonic paths can peacefully coexist. But direct descendants are not allowed to privately interact with each other. Once discovered, that is the same as betraying the sect and is a capital crime. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, you should be well aware of what happened to your family in the past. My immortal sect will not tolerate this at all, so you must not make a mistake. Today, you will sever all relations with Qin Yu and return to the sect with me. I believe that the sect master and the elders will consider that you don't know the situation and won't severely punish you. Otherwise, no one will be able to save you. Qin Yu's heart sank. He had once heard Ning Ling vaguely mention some information about her life. If he verified it with Wenren Dongyue's words, it would be easy to find the crux of the matter. Ning Ling's mother was a direct female cultivator of the immortal sect and her father was the demon's son of the demonic path, thus, her family was ruined and she was sent to the land of exile, where she was called a wicked daughter. Qin Yu finally understood why her eyes were filled with despair. It was because of what happened to her family in the past, and she had linked it to the two of them. Looking at her pale face, pain gushed out from the depths of his heart. Qin Yu hugged her tightly and whispered in her ear, Ning Ling, don't be afraid. What happened in the past will not happen to you or me. Undying true demon body. I will strip off the demonic bloodline in my body and abolish this demonic path body transformation technique. Ning Ling's eyes widened. No. If the demon body is abolished, you will become a cripple and you will never be able to cultivate again. You cannot do this. Qin Yu was silent for several breaths of time. He said, I don't believe that after my demon body is abolished, Qin Yu, will become a cripple. At most, I will be a bit weaker. I fear that at that time, I will need senior apprentice sister Ning Ling to protect junior apprentice brother. Hearing the firmness in his words, Ning Ling's heart began to tumble like a raging tide. In this world, besides Qin Yu, was there anyone who could do this for her? In that instant, Ning Ling made her decision. Qin Yu, I will go with you. We will leave this place. Whether it is the immortal sect or the demonic path, we will live our own lives. Qin Yu laughed. Good. Ning Ling, let us be together, never to be separated again. Wenren Dongyue's complexion darkened. He never imagined that things would develop to this step. Qin Yu was willing to abolish his demon body for Ning Ling and Ning Ling was willing to give up everything she had for him. The two of you truly loved each other to the extreme. Ning Ling. Wenren Dongyue roared out, you are a direct disciple of the immortal sect, don't you know that this is the same as betrayal? I will never allow it. If you really want to do this, then I will not hesitate to pay any price to kill Qin Yu here today. Qin Yu's eyes were icy cold. he didn't care about this threat at all. Ning Ling bowed. This is the last time I will call you senior apprentice brother. She straightened herself, a resolute look in her eyes. Wenren Dongyue, if you want to kill Qin Yu, then kill us as well. Wenren Dongyue was enraged. You. Blue veins popped out on his fists. He roared at Wuma Sijan, do you demonic path people really want to stare on helplessly as a demon sun leaves? A strange light flashed in Wuma Sijan's eyes. He lightly said, fellow Daoist Qin Yu has yet to join the demonic path. Even if he successfully refined the undying true demon body, he is still not a demon son of my demonic path. I naturally have no control over what he wants to do. Wenren Dongyue clenched his teeth. He knew that Wuma Sijan wanted to watch from the sidelines. He suppressed his anger, his thoughts rapidly racing. Qin Yu was extremely strong and he didn't rule out the possibility that he had some hidden cards. Even so, Wenren Dongyue still had full confidence that he could kill him. The key was Ning Ling. Her bloodline was far too formidable. If she deliberately suppressed it, his strength would be greatly affected. And most importantly, he didn't want to kill Ning Ling, nor could he kill her. Otherwise, no matter what reason he had, once he returned to the immortal sect he would have to withstand the wrath of Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace. Wenren Dongyue's eyes flashed. He said in a low voice, Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, you betrayed the immortal sect and flew away with Qin Yu. Do you no longer care about that person suppressed beneath Bitter Pagoda? Ning Ling's complexion changed and a struggling look appeared in her eyes. Wenren Dongyue continued to speak, Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, do you know that I have already asked teacher to plead for leniency for you in the Council of Elders? Soon, you will be allowed to enter Bitter Pagoda and visit that person. As long as you diligently cultivate, that person's life within Bitter Pagoda will become increasingly relaxed. In the future, if you can inherit Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace, you can even pardon that person and regain your freedom. But, Junior apprentice sister, if you betray the sect today, do you think that the enraged elders will vent their anger on Bitter Pagoda? Ning Ling screamed, you dare. If you harm her, I will fight you to the bitter end. Wenren Dongyue wasn't angry. Rather, he was happy. The more Ning Ling valued him, the better. Junior apprentice sister Ning Ling, you should know that my immortal sect will not be threatened by anyone. The elders can make any decision they deem reasonable. Allow me to remind you that you cannot be impulsive and end up regretting it for the rest of your life. Ning Ling shivered, on the verge of collapse. Qin Yu said in a low voice, Ning Ling, that person beneath Bitter Pagoda, could she be? Ning Ling nodded with tears streaming down her face, guilt in her eyes. She reached out a hand and stroked his face. She whispered, Qin Yu. I'm sorry. I cannot abandon her. I'm sorry. Qin Yu's heart was heavy but he squeezed out a smile. I understand. How can I blame you for this? It's just that some people are too despicable. He took a deep breath and wiped away Ning Ling's tears. Ning Ling, return to the immortal sect with them. I will look for you. Ning Ling's voice trembled. Qin Yu, senior apprentice sister, do you not believe me? Qin Yu's eyes were calm. In the past, I promised you that I would enter the land of divinity and demons to find you, and now I have done so. Today, Qin Yu's promise still stands. I will try to find you in the immortal sect as soon as possible. His eyes swept over Wenren Dongyue and the immortal sect disciples behind him. At that time, no one will be able to stop us from being together. Ning Ling nodded. I believe you. I believe you. She lifted a hand and a strand of hair fell into her hand. By sending this to junior apprentice brother, it means that my heart is together with yours. I promise to junior apprentice brother that no matter how many years pass, I will wait for you, in life or in death. Qin Yu received the strand of hair. With a flash of light, a jade pendant appeared in his hand. In the past, senior apprentice sister gave this to me. Now, I will give it to you as a token of our love. Ningling grasped the jade pendant. She deeply looked at Qin Yu. Then, with a flash of light, she flew in front of Wenren Dongyue. Allow Qin Yu to safely leave. Moreover, in the future, the immortal sect cannot harm him on their own initiative. Otherwise, I am willing to die with him. Wenren Dongyue clenched his teeth. All right, I agree. Boundless spatial fluctuations erupted. The spatial gate that stood on the ground was finally formed. In the next moment, a boundless aura suddenly descended upon the infinite realm. Endless heaven and earth spiritual strength gathered together, condensing into a phantom in the air. Rumble, rumble. Chapter 408. Schwa, the phantom raised its head and coldly stared at it. I came here for another important matter. I have no intention of fighting with you. The giant face fell silent for a moment before disappearing into the lightning waterfall. The tens of thousands of terrifying lightning bolts scattered along with it. A phantom had forced back the incarnation of the infinite realm's rules. Only a transcendent supreme being could accomplish this. And in the land of divinity and demons, those that had the qualifications to be called supreme elders were only at the calamity immortal realm. Wenren Dongyue's eyes flashed. He respectfully fell to his knees. High Clarity Netherworld Realm Disciple Wenren Dongyue greets Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace's Great Elder Purple Moon. The many immortal sect disciples in the back jumped in fright and hurriedly knelt down to pay their respects. The position of Palace Master of Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace had been vacant for many years. This great elder was the person with the highest status. Even in their eyes, she was an unreachable existence. Ningling revealed a look of excitement. Disciple greets Honorable Master. Wenren Dongyue's expression changed. Ningling had actually entered the tutelage of Great Elder Purple Moon. In other words, as long as there wasn't an accident, Ningling would absolutely become the future supreme ruler of Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace. Grand Elder Purple Moon was a woman who appeared to be in her 30s. Even though her face was blurry, one could sense her enchanting charm from her figure. Her eyes turned warm as she looked at Ningling. I already know what happened. The reason my projection descended here today is to help you. Ningling was pleasantly surprised. Thank you, Honorable Master. Great Elder Purple Moon waved her hand. Wenren Dongyue, during this trip to the Infinite Realm, you failed to fulfill the expectations of the immortal sect. Once you return, you will be punished. Get up. Wenren Dongyue had a respectful expression. Yes. At this time, Great Elder Purple Moon's eyes fell on Qin Yu. Her body stiffened and a look of struggle crossed her face. The strength of this gaze was indescribable. It was indistinct and traceless, yet it was as heavy as a million mountains, and it was capable of seeing through all the secrets of a person. It was just a glance, a brief moment. But to Qin Yu's senses, it felt unimaginably long. When he looked away, Qin Yu gasped for breath, a cold sweat soaking his robes. This was the might of the calamity immortal realm. Even though it was only a phantom, it possessed unimaginable strength. Honorable Master. Ningling revealed a worried expression. Great Elder Purple Moon smiled. Sure enough, women tend to leave their husbands. Nothing has happened yet, but she's already leaning towards a little man like you. Ningling's face flushed red, but her heart was filled with even more anticipation. Her teacher didn't seem to reject Qin Yu. If she could help them, then perhaps there would be a turning point in the situation. Great Elder Purple Moon hesitated for a moment and said, In my Nine Heaven Mirror Moon Palace, there is a secret technique called the Primordial Singular Energy Art. If one successfully cultivates this technique, they can freely transform the strength within their body. The demonic path has the undying true demon body, and my immortal sect also has the ancient chaos body, both of which are in no way weaker. As long as one reaches large success in the primordial singular energy art, the true demon body will naturally transform into the chaos body. Qinyu, the primordial singular energy art, is a profound art. It is extremely difficult to cultivate, and there are also many hidden dangers. Do you dare to cultivate it? The last question was like billowing thunder, exploding in his mind. Qinyu had to use every ounce of his strength to maintain his thoughts and respectfully bow. I am willing to give it a try. Great Elder Purple Moon revealed a look of praise. Your soul cultivation isn't weak and your will can be considered tenacious. Your chances of successfully cultivating the primordial singular energy art are much higher. With a flick of her sleeves, a circle of light covered Qinyu and all the immortal sect disciples. In the next moment, everyone vanished from sight. The world around him was filled with rainbow colors, but there was an invisible strength that covered Qinyu within. He didn't feel any shaking or tearing of space. Soon, there was a brilliant flash of light. Qinyu opened his eyes and discovered that he and the people from the immortal sect had appeared beside a transmission array. The array formation had already been activated. Several cultivators wearing the robes of the immortal sect with tyrannical auras were maintaining the operation of the array formation. The one leading them was especially powerful. He was a Blue Sea Supreme Elder. Great Elder Purple Moon has ordered that after you arrive, you must return to the immortal sect. You are not allowed to stay outside. With a flick of her sleeves, the halo of light that covered the array formation opened up a channel. Go in. Ning Ling arrived at Qinyu's side and grabbed his hand. Although she didn't say anything, there was a happy look on her face. Qinyu hesitated for a moment but didn't say anything. He smiled and held her hand. Wenren Dongwei swept his eyes over this scene. He lightly said, "Let's go." Soon, everyone stepped into the transmission array. In a brilliant flash of light, everyone vanished from sight. After several more transmission arrays, the last time they stepped out of the transmission array, they arrived at the immortal sect. Taking a deep breath, Qinyu could feel the inconceivably rich heaven and earth spiritual strength outside. His eyes shook. No wonder there were countless powerhouses in the immortal sect. If one cultivated in this environment, they would likely have some achievements. Ning Ling saw his surprise. She said in a low voice, "Qinyu, this is a transmission array in the Heaven Steppe region. Only elders and direct disciples can live here." Qinyu suddenly understood. So only a small number of people could live here. Thinking about it, even if the immortal sect had countless resources, it was impossible for them to equally distribute them to their disciples. Ning Ling pulled Qinyu out of the transmission array. "Senior apprentice brother Wenren, I'm a bit tired. I'll bring Qinyu back to rest first. Farewell." With that, the two of them flew far away. Wenren Dongyue's face darkened. He took a deep breath and flew away. Ning Ling indeed had an extremely high status in the immortal sect. Her residence was actually a mountain peak that occupied a considerable amount of land. The mountain peak was protected by an array formation. Layers of light revolved around it. It was clear that its defensive capabilities were extremely potent. I entered teacher's tutelage not too long ago and was assigned this residence. Today is also my first time here. Ning Ling took out a token and waved it at the mountain peak. The array formation's light immediately split open, revealing an entrance. She smiled and said, "Let's go in." Qinyu smiled. "Okay." The two of them flew into the mountain peak. The heaven and earth spiritual strength inside was actually much richer than the outside world. The thick heaven and earth spiritual strength even condensed into clouds in the air, making it seem like a paradise. A group of maids flew in together. Looking at their appearance, it seemed as if they were picking spirit fruits from the mountain. The sudden appearance of Ningling and Qin Yu gave them a fright. But they quickly composed themselves and bowed. Maids, greet the mountain lord. Ningling waved her hand. You may leave. Yes. The group of maids flew away. But as they glanced around, they saw that the two of them were holding hands and had strange expressions. When they vanished, Ningling finally blushed. Qin Yu laughed. I thought you weren't shy at all. Ningling glared at him. After a moment of hesitation, she didn't take back her hand. Following the guidance of the token, the two of them soon arrived at their residence. Deep within the palace, Ningling dismissed all the maids and guards. Then, she brought Qin Yu into a chamber. With a flick of her sleeves, she took out several strange stones and placed them in the chamber, immediately isolating them from the surrounding aura. All right, no one should be able to hear us. Qin Yu thought for a moment. He lifted a hand and took out the 9th province furnace. He smiled and said, It's not that I don't believe you, but it's best to be a bit more careful. Ningling nodded. I naturally know. She paused for a moment and said, Qin Yu, are you worried that teacher has other thoughts towards you? Qin Yu didn't deny it. I indeed don't dare to completely believe you. Ningling anxiously said, then you still dared to come. What if you have nowhere to run? Qin Yu smiled. This is the best chance to be together with you. Even if there are risks, I still want to give it a try. Ningling's heart warmed. She thought for a moment and said, I believe that teacher already knows of my feelings towards you. Because of the bloodline in my body, teacher values me greatly, so she shouldn't try anything, but, as you said, it's best if you and I are careful. I will figure out the matter of the primordial singular energy art as soon as possible. Qin Yu nodded. Then I'll have to trouble senior apprentice sister. Looking at his earnest appearance, Ningling couldn't help but roll her eyes at him. She inadvertently revealed a charming smile, causing Qin Yu's eyes to widen. The chamber was quiet. The only sound was the breathing of the two people. The air suddenly became a bit warmer. Qin Yu licked his lips, some thoughts stirring in his mind. Ningling's face became increasingly red. She lowered her head, feeling the burning heat in Qin Yu's eyes. Her body became increasingly stiff. As Qin Yu coughed and prepared to move, a messenger jade slip suddenly flew into the chamber. However, it was blocked by the spells the two people laid down. Ningling hurriedly stood up and took the jade slip. She swept through it with her divine sense and said, Teacher has summoned me. She looked up and saw the disappointment in Qin Yu's eyes. Her heart skipped a beat and she stuttered, I'll be right back. As she finished speaking, she left the chamber as if she were fleeing. Qin Yu rubbed his nose, a bitter smile on his face. This great elder purple moon really knew how to choose the right time. Could it be that she felt the two of them isolating their auras, so she didn't feel at ease summoning Ningling away? All sorts of random thoughts filled his mind with resentment. Pa, Qin Yu slapped his forehead. His safety hadn't even been determined yet, and yet he dared to have such thoughts. Could it be that he had been holding back all these years? When did he become so lacking in self-control? Qin Yu took a deep breath and suppressed his fiery thoughts. His complexion became tranquil once more and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. He wanted to see just what kind of result Ningling would bring back. As she flew out from the mountain peak, the blush on Ningling's face slowly faded away. But there was still a bit of shyness lingering in her eyes. Qin Yu, he actually had such thoughts. Just thinking about it made her entire body heat up. Ningling quickly gathered her thoughts and flew straight towards Great Elder Purple Moon's residence. Soon, in front of a towering mountain, Ning Ling took out her status token. She waved it and the array formation on the mountain spat out a beam of light that wrapped around her. The scenery changed. When Ning Ling landed on the ground, she had already appeared in a grand hall. Purple Moon was gently leaning against a soft white couch, a smile on her face. Ning Ling, come here and talk. Yes, teacher. Ning Ling stepped forwards and respectfully bowed. This disciple thanks teacher for helping to protect Xinyu today. Purple Moon smiled and shook her head. I think that you aren't completely at ease with your teacher helping me. Ning Ling was silent for a moment. She looked up and said, this disciple is indeed puzzled. I asked teacher to dispel my doubts. This was the same as acknowledging Purple Moon's words. The great elder revealed a bit of helplessness. You, relying on my favor, you are becoming more and more insolent. She waved her hand. It's fine. If I don't explain things clearly to you, I fear you and that little man of yours won't be able to sleep well. Disciples should be well aware that your bloodline plays an extremely important role in my 9-heaven Mirror Moon Palace. The reason I helped you and Xinyu is because I didn't want you to lose the heart to cultivate because of him. That is the entire reason. Ning Ling bowed. Honorable Master's great graciousness is something that this disciple shouldn't speak of. But Xinyu is the person that this disciple has chosen for his entire life. If something were to happen to him, this disciple does not wish to continue living in this world. I ask that Honorable Master ensure his safety in the immortal sect. Purple Moon frowned. Disciple, I can promise you that no one in the immortal sect will harm him. But there are many dangers in cultivating the primordial singular energy art. If something were to happen to him, do you want to die with him? Ning Ling looked up. Yes. Purple Moon was silent for a long time. Then, she forced a smile and said, all right. It looks like I will have to prepare some things to help Xinyu cultivate. This brat is quite lucky. He actually managed to make my disciple fall head over heels for him. Then, Purple Moon casually said, good disciple, the primordial singular energy art requires a pure yang body to cultivate. I can see that Xinyu hasn't lost his primordial yang. When the two of you are together, you must restrain yourselves, otherwise you will harm his life. Ning Ling flushed red. Teacher, what nonsense are you speaking? If there isn't anything else, then this disciple will be excusing herself. Purple Moon happily smiled. She waved her hand. Go. Remember to cultivate well so that you can inherit the teachings of my 9-heaven Mirror Moon Palace as soon as possible. Ning Ling bowed and drew back. As she watched her figure vanish from the palace gates, Purple Moon's smile slowly faded away and her eyes turned icy cold. When she mentioned her primordial yang body just now, Ning Ling's flustered expression didn't escape her eyes. It seemed that something had happened between her and Xinyu just now. Luckily, she had interrupted them in time so that a disaster hadn't occurred. Chapter 409. The news that Ning Ling brought back calmed Xinyu. At the very least, it was unlikely that Purple Moon would try to harm him. Xinyu, I will always be by your side. When you cultivate the primordial singular energy art, you can stay in my mountain peak. Even if someone tries to harm you, they won't have the chance. Ning Ling earnestly said. Then I'll have to trouble senior apprentice sister. Xinyu didn't decline. The two of them fell silent. Ning Ling blushed and her body trembled, a bit restless. Xinyu said, Ning Ling, is there something troubling you? Ning Ling suddenly stood up. As she walked out, she said, Xinyu, Honorable Master reminded me that the primordial singular energy art requires a pure yang body to cultivate. You shouldn't think too much about it. As she finished speaking, her two small ears turned red. Her figure flashed and she vanished from the chamber's entrance. Qin Yu was stunned. He bitterly smiled. Indeed, his previous performance had caused Ningling to misunderstand him. Was he the type of person that would be controlled by his lower body? But as he thought about Ningling's shy and restless appearance just now and how she had fled, Qin Yu helplessly discovered that he couldn't help but feel a bit disappointed. He really hadn't been wronged. After clarifying certain matters, Ningling was much more relaxed. She went out for several days, searching for information related to the primordial singular energy art. Through the ancient texts of the sect, she asked some 9-heaven mirror moon palace cultivators for guidance. Ningling was half worried and half happy. The primordial singular energy art could indeed transform one's strength like her honorable master had said. If one cultivated it to large success, it wouldn't be difficult to transform the undying true demon body into the ancient chaos body. But cultivating this cultivation method had extremely harsh requirements for a cultivator. Even if one used all sorts of supporting treasures, there would still be many dangers during the cultivation process, some of which could even endanger one's life. On the 5th day after returning to the immortal sect, Purple Moon arrived at the mountain peak. She personally delivered the primordial singular energy art jade slip as well as all sorts of cultivation treasures. Qin Yu, do you know that even if I were to use all my wealth to exchange for these treasures, it would still be extremely strenuous? If it weren't for my disciple, you would never have obtained these things. I have already done everything I can. You had best be careful so that you don't lose your life and harm my disciple. These words were cold and without the slightest bit of politeness. Qin Yu respectfully said, "This junior will work hard and not disappoint great elders' expectations." Humph. What you cannot let down is this stubborn disciple of mine. Purple Moon looked at Ningling with doting eyes. You must also cultivate well. The future of my 9-heaven mirror moon palace lies in your hands. Ningling earnestly said, "For honorable master to help me like this disciple is extremely grateful. I will cultivate diligently to repay honorable master." Purple Moon smiled with satisfaction. She lifted a hand and stroked her beautiful hair. Then, she turned and stepped away, vanishing without a trace. Yu's hand said. Yu's Ling rubbed bed. And said, "Ling was down, Ling's Ling Moon." She returned the jade slip to Qin Yu and continued to examine the cultivation treasures that Purple Moon had sent over. 2 hours later, she laid down the last bead and stretched out, a smile on her face. There's no problem. These treasures are all of high quality. Honorable Master has indeed put a lot of effort into them. As she spoke, she looked up and saw that Qin Yu was in a daze. He was staring blankly at the part of her chest that had become even more prominent because she had stretched herself. Her face flushed red and she pouted, "Qin Yu, when did you become so vulgar? Cultivate well, I'm leaving first." Qin Yu had a resentful expression. He was also a bit helpless. When facing Ningling, his self-control was always poor. He shook his head and cast away his thoughts. Then, he sat down cross-legged and probed the jade slip with his divine sense. The world is where all things are born. Their natures are different, but they all originate from the same source. All things are connected. After a long time, Qin Yu laid down the jade slip, a look of awe and admiration on his face. This primordial singular energy art involved all things in the world, and its mysteries were truly an eye-opener. The person who created this art in the past must have been a peerless powerhouse with a transcendent cultivation and infinite magic power. Although the primordial singular energy art had extremely high requirements for cultivation talent and required a massive amount of supporting treasures, it was still a heaven-defying cultivation method. This was because its function wasn't just to help a cultivator transform the strength within their body, but it could also help a cultivator greatly increase their strength. This was because the key to the primordial singular energy art was to condense a breath of pre-celestial energy and sink it into the dantian, allowing it to grow stronger and stronger. When the pre-celestial energy surpassed the strength within the body, it could instantly fuse together, taking advantage of the chaos before the fusion to change the attribute of one's strength. When the attribute of one's strength changed and the pre-celestial energy completely fused into one's body, it was the same as doubling one's strength. Moreover, the greatest advantage of the primordial singular energy art lay in its cultivation speed. As long as a cultivator could withstand it and also had enough supporting treasures, they could cultivate it to large success in a short dozen-some years. That was the same as doubling a cultivator's strength in just a dozen-some years. Disregarding the dangers, the primordial singular energy art was absolutely one of the shortcuts to increasing one's strength. Qin Yu suppressed these thoughts. He lifted his hand and 6 jade boxes appeared in front of him. He opened them one by one, revealing the items within. Immediately, a boundless aura spread out. 9-colored lotus, tranquil heart grass, broken branch flower, these were the items needed to condense a breath of pre-celestial energy. Not to mention anything else, just these 6 heavenly materials were incomparably precious, even rare in the world. Their value couldn't be measured with spirit stones. Even in the land of divinity and demons, the primordial singular energy art could be considered one of the most extravagant cultivation methods. Even if an ordinary cultivator were to obtain it, they would only be able to shed tears. Just from this alone, Great Elder Purple Moon was truly a good person. Qin Yu deliberated his thoughts several times. After confirming that he had thoroughly grasped the method to condense pre-celestial energy, he flicked his sleeves and the 6 treasures flew up above his head, each one of them rapidly spinning around. A faint blue light gradually spread out, submerging Qin Yu's figure. It slowly condensed into a giant blue cocoon that expanded and contracted like a beating heart. Outside the training chamber, Ningling shyly walked out. But she still didn't feel relieved to leave. She paced back and forth, looking up at the tightly shut stone door from time to time. Now that the training chamber was completely sealed off, even as the mountain master, she had no way of knowing what was happening inside. She wondered how Qin Yu was doing right now. After inquiring about the news these past days, Ningling had gained an extremely deep understanding of the primordial singular energy art. Although condensing a breath of pre-celestial energy was the first step, it was the most difficult part of the first 3 levels of this cultivation method. The slightest mistake and the condensation of pre-celestial energy would fail. The impact of the collapse would be enough to tear apart a cultivator's meridians and even cause serious damage to their dantian. Thinking of this, Ningling suddenly felt a bit of regret. She shouldn't have left in a moment of shyness. She should have cautiously warned Qin Yu not to be careless. Qin Yu, you must be careful. In the training chamber, Qin Yu sat down cross-legged. As the blue cocoon around him constantly contracted and expanded, wisps of blue energy entered his dantian sea, condensing in the skies above his great Tao base and his 5 nascent souls. As the blue energy continued to pour in, it began to form the phantom of a blue sun. The moment the blue sun phantom appeared, the 5 nascent souls simultaneously opened their eyes. Their small hands began to form hand seals, and the blue energy that entered his dantian sea was immediately drawn in by the power of the hand seals. It began to flow into the blue sun phantom in a slow and steady order. This sort of situation was somewhat similar to refining pills. The blue sun phantom was the pill and the blue energy in his dantian sea was the material. Qin Yu suddenly felt a sense of familiarity and began to control it with great ease. Within his soul space, the purple crescent moon above Qin Yu's soul emitted an imperceptible ringing sound. The purple light that fell down suddenly became rich and his thoughts became clear. It was similar to when he ignited the power of the burning heavens and entered a completely calm state of mind. This allowed Qin Yu's control over the blue energy in his Dantian Sea to reach a state of absolute precision, perfect without the least bit of flaw. With this absolutely calm consciousness, he couldn't feel the passing of time in the outside world. When the last wisp of blue energy submerged into the blue sun phantom, Qin Yu's heart shook and he withdrew from this state. Within his soul space, the purple moon dimmed and the light it emitted diminished by over half. But at this time, Qin Yu didn't have time to be curious about the changes that occurred to the purple moon. The blue sun phantom in his Dantian Sea began to collapse inward. The gigantic blue sun phantom shrank to a point, and then suddenly erupted from this point, turning into a blue sun phantom once more. A pale blue light illuminated his Dantian Sea. The 5 nascent souls were bathed in it, their faces filled with enjoyment. Qin Yu focused his mind. Within this blue sun, he could see some mist slowly rising up, stretching and gathering. This was a breath of pre-celestial energy. He had succeeded. The primordial singular energy art had an extremely high threshold and the first step had stumped countless people. But Qin Yu's cultivation had gone surprisingly smoothly, as if everything had happened naturally. Qin Yu opened his eyes, a thoughtful look on his face. He felt that there was a profound meaning behind the changes occurring to the purple moon in his soul space. Purple moon, blue sun, could there be some connection between these two? But thinking about it, he suppressed these thoughts. The purple moon was obtained from the 9-realm Holy Land and the blue sun was formed from the pre-celestial energy condensed from the immortal sex primordial singular energy art. There simply wasn't any connection between the two. Perhaps it was a coincidence, or perhaps the power of the blue sun had inadvertently touched upon the power of the purple moon. This was a common occurrence in cultivation. Qin Yu sensed for a moment and a look of surprise crossed his face. He felt as if only a moment had passed, but he had actually been in seclusion for a full 10 days. After such a long time without any news, Ningling was likely worried. He stood up and flicked his sleeves, quietly opening the chamber's stone door. A beautiful figure entered his field of vision, her face filled with pleasant surprise. As she sensed Qin Yu's aura, a bright smile lit up her face. "Qin Yu, you've succeeded." Qin Yu smiled. "I'm lucky I didn't fail you." He glanced at Ningling's tired appearance. He said, startled, "Have you been here for these last 10 days?" Ningling lifted a hand and smoothed back her hair. The first step of the primordial singular energy art is the most critical step. If I didn't personally stand guard here, I wouldn't have been able to feel at ease. Qin Yu's heart ached for her. He stepped forwards and hugged her. "Why are you doing this?" "I'm in the chamber so you can't feel anything." Ningling closed her eyes. She whispered, "At least this way I can feel a bit more at ease." Her voice gradually lowered. After she finished speaking, she fell into a deep sleep in his arms. During these 10 days of waiting, her restlessness and anxiety had greatly damaged her mind. Now that she saw Qin Yu leave seclusion and let out a breath of relief, she couldn't hold on any longer. Qin Yu picked her up. "What a silly girl, but this feeling of someone worrying about me and caring for me is really good." He strode forwards, waving away several maids. Then, he personally placed Ningling on the bed and covered her with a blanket. Qin Yu's eyes flashed and he fell down beside her. "I'm so tired, I can't hold on much longer." He closed his eyes, a happy smile on his face. Outside Ningling's living room, a maid heard 2 even breaths coming from the room. She relaxed a little and put away the purple gold bell in her palm. She turned and hurried away. On the way, she met 2 companions who greeted her and said that she wasn't feeling well and asked for a leave of absence from the steward on her behalf. After returning to her dwelling, the maid closed the doors and windows. Then, she took out a deep green bead from her storage ring and carefully poured magic power into it. The bead emitted light and condensed into a blurry image in the air. A voice lightly said, "What happened?" This voice was Purple Moon. The maid respectfully knelt to the ground. "Great Elder, Chinyu left seclusion today and has smoothly condensed pre-celestial energy." Then, after he escorted Mountain Master Ningling back to her room, he stayed inside. "What? Why didn't you stop him?" The image trembled. The maid hurriedly said, "I monitored through the purple gold bell. Mountain Master Ningling and Chinyu were only sleeping together and didn't do anything excessive. You told me not to alert Chinyu unless absolutely necessary, so I hesitated and didn't show myself." The image was silent for several breaths of time. Then, Purple Moon's voice sounded out again. "You did well. Continue to monitor him." The light from the bead vanished. The maid carefully put it away, a helpless expression on her face. The Great Elder's matters weren't easy to handle. But she had no choice. She hoped that Chinyu would continue to behave himself. Otherwise, if Mountain Master Ningling were to find out that she was secretly helping others, the results wouldn't be good. In the Grand Hall, Purple Moon slammed her palm down on the armrest. The giant chair beneath her instantly disintegrated into powder. Her eyes were icy cold, overflowing with killing intent. After a long time, Purple Moon took a deep breath. She was barely able to suppress the chill in her heart, but her complexion was still gloomy. You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.